can evolve your leader into their Super Saiyan version, or
Yeah,
like what?
You gotta push your limits.
Like if you hit half life, you can power up, and the entire meta was a lot of cards would spend a life to get to half life, so you can evolve and aggro down your opponent. Like,
and I respect that because that sounds very DBZ in design.
Yeah.
Hi, chat. We're live now, and the audio's going. Because we're talking about alternatives to Yu-Gi-Oh.
Or just card design, really.
Just in case.
In general.
Yeah, I'm very curious about card design stuff. I think that the Yu-Gi-Oh alternative card game that seems the most interesting is the way they've built the Digimon card game, like with the very distinct flavors between the different colors and the way like memory and data works. The problem is that they don't have a good online simulator.
They have actually there is one that exists. It's just you gotta do a few hoops, I think.
Yeah,
there's
sadly, despite the fact that I know for a fact Bamco has, more money than God, there's no like digital version of their TCG, which is sad.
I do know there's like a digital tutorial for the One Piece TCG, but I don't think it's a full-on simulator. I think it's just
that is a weird case where
Konami.
There's online deck builder.
Yeah, I know. Well, Alestrals, I have no idea what company. I assume they're from the ground up. I'm not gonna blame Alestrals for not having a digital version of their game because they're, I have literally no idea who they were until I got enough startup money to start buying Yu-Gi-Oh creators. It's only Yu-Gi-Oh creators, by the way. Nobody else, no other TCG has experienced the marketing that Alestrals has done specifically to Yu-Gi-Oh guys. It's funny. But like I said, I'm very shocked that more of the Japanese games don't do it. Konami's really like, when they decided they were getting back into video games and blocked out enough time to make Master Duel, they really have like won that war without trying, even if their own like paper card games not doing
Mega. Put another coin in the jar. They should just make Yu-Gi-Oh! IP games.
Oh, they should. Well, I've said this before.
Again,
I say it a lot.
You could just make an Ace Combat game that is just Sky Strike.
Konami has spun back up their video game studio, and they are doing things. It does seem like they are more focused on their more recognizable brands and IPs right now. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not forgotten. Just the other day, the TCG, I think, launched a specific retro account to talk about the retro video games they're going to release and talk about TCG retro content, whatever the fuck that means.
I still would like almost, I guess, a weird mix of all the old Demon World cards and like Kozuki and like Dark World and all that, and like the Lightsworn and all that shit as like a Kingsfield style game.
As a brief aside, in my 2 minutes of Googling, it seems like it's just, like it's headed by just a guy named A-Drive, who was a Twitch guy, like a Twitch streamer. Like I'm sure more people were behind it, of course, but
yeah, but
like,
hey,
the
good,
company
good
is
for
called
him to
A-Drive.
Make it big enough. That's
had
what
a
I'd
vision
like to do.
and then made like a kind of like.
I'd
like
love to create card
Greco-Roman
games because
design.
I'm a sucker for game design. But anyway, is this set to loop? Yes. Sorry, double checking my audio. We're gonna talk about the ban list, hopefully briefly.
Ban list.
It finally happened. You can stop posting. Please stop posting the vomiting horse. Thank you.
He's safe.
I don't even know what that's from.
Literally, every time Konami posted something that wasn't the ban list, somebody or multiple somebodies were posting like a photoshopped image of a vomiting horse in the replies.
What?
People are literally insufferable. And honestly, Konami should have told you all to go fuck yourself. They should have announced publicly on Twitter, hey, every time you post the vomiting horse gif, the ban list gets delayed another 24 hours. Go fuck yourselves.
Look, every time you ask Rada about the hero video, it's going to come out a month later.
Wait.
But no,
that was a thing? Okay.
I mean, he's made that joke before. He did say in the Cyber Dragon video that he's literally done every like GX anime archetype except hero, though. But anyway, the ban list. It finally came out. It went into effect yesterday.
Lacrima being banned.
Yeah. I
did not expect Fiendsmith hits. I'll be legitimately honest.
This is a record-breaking ban list. While admittedly people are like, oh, it's the longest the meta's been the meta. Actually, the other way.
Probably need time to think on it.
Lacrima is the earliest a card has been banned since release. Legal
like
at 46 days, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Month and a half.
I would argue Plushfire because it was like 2 weeks, but.
I'd have to double check the history if that was like actually an E-ban list that was like different from announced.
it wasn't adjusted ban list, but
Yeah, so
but
Lacrima has the shortest
nearly
lifespan of
every-
a normal ban list cycle.
yeah. Like it was one of those weird things where like shops can choose not to follow it, but every shop I ever went to followed it because why would you not stick to the most recent ban list? It doesn't make any sense.
Honestly, I'm
So-
interested for when we actually do the Fiendsmith available trail, because some of this actually is kind
that'll
of cool to
probably
talk
have
about.
to be a poll pick someday, because it's not, as far as I know, it's not really like a story archetype. It's just happening. Somebody was just being cool. So 4 cards forbidden. Lacrima gone. This is a good hit as far as Fiendsmith goes. It's not going to kill Fiendsmith as a deck, but it does really impact the running it as a side engine. Like actual Fiend Link, aka U-Bell decks, can still make do with the TCG exclusive Fiend cards, but this is probably going to remove Snake Eye Fiendsmith as a specific combo. It gets a lot harder to do this, especially because you'll see that card at the bottom there in black. Beatrice, dead, thank God, fucker. Go to jail forever. I know
I can no
BA
longer
is no longer
transaction
good,
rollback for free.
Yeah, no, sucks. Beatrice was the classic example of an OCG card that took a decent TCG exclusive archetype, catapulted it into being really good, but also they designed her to be too generic, so she was just fucking everywhere. She should stay in prison, because otherwise any deck that can make rank 6s can basically foolish any card for free, and it sucks.
So the thing with Beatrice, I would say, is that one, Burning Abyss, it is a deck that refused to die. Like everyone jokes about Mr. Farfa playing it for 15 years, however the hell long it's been, but legitimately, Burning Abyss, it would pop back up in some random deck every other year, like from original Trap BA to PK Fire to Hydrolander. It never really stayed dead. And Beatrice was like half those decks were before Beatrice was even a thing. Beatrice just made it better, but at the time, a rank 6 was hard to shit out. Now it's it's a rank a rank. You can make these monsters by blinking. So a generic rank 6, oh dear, just find a way to make a rank 6 engine in your deck, and you can transaction rollback whatever the fuck you want.
And so it's gotta go. And I'm not gonna say that I think transaction also probably should go to hell sometime, because I understand it was an anime card for anime funnies. It's a card that's really good and stupid, and is not going to get worse when we show some unhits. But the other 2 hits here are Appaloosa. I think everybody expected this after Barone and Savage Dragon got hit. Appaloosa became the new format generic negate that Snake Eye and everybody else could shit out. So your negate board gets a little softer. And it took them a while. I think they wanted to try and see if Centurion could be good. But even then, King Calamity I don't think did enough to make that deck sell. So they killed it, which they should do. King Calamity is now banned everywhere.
King Calamity is lame.
Yeah, it's a card that much like all other cards, it's a card that if you say your opponent can't activate effects or whatever, Konami, here's a tip, because you can just say whatever you want in card text. Just put a text that says you cannot special summon this card on your opponent's turn. Just, if you're gonna do turn skip cards for OTKs, just put that clause in there. You can literally print whatever you want. This will no longer be a problem. But unfortunately, because you forgot to do that on this, you forgot to do that on DDD Kali Yuga, and other bullshit, those cards have to be banned because there are ways to summon them on your opponent's turn, which just turns them into a floodgate. And it sucks. But
I guess the real question is, would it be bad if you just made it that certain cards do skip your turn, you only get its effect once per duel?
Huh? What are you saying? Speak up.
Do you not hear? Oh.
No, you kind of slurred that one a little.
It was very muffled.
I don't know if that was your mic garbled that or you, but it was a little garbled. I think I caught the tail end of that pretty good.
Oh fuck you. Okay. I just need to calm down now because I'm just fucking pissed now.
You're right. Let me switch unlimited while we're.
But yeah, with Appo, it's infinite negates. It's just not a fun card to interact with.
As I was saying.
Yeah.
would it still be awful if they just made all the turn skip effects? You can only do this once per duel.
No, because you'd still get your turn skipped and then you'd be dead.
Yeah, like
Okay.
a once per duel on a turn skip in Yu-Gi-Oh now is still just an I win button.
So, like hypothetically, you use Crimson Dragon to make King Calamity on your opponent's turn. You can only activate his effect once per duel. They cannot activate monster effects, which is what King Calamity says. And I believe it's activate monster effects, not even they're negated. It's just you can't do it. That means you probably can't build a board at all. You pass back to your opponent. Your opponent just kills you. They have a 4K beater on the board, at least. Plus whatever they made on the rest of their turn. You're dead. So, like, you'd have to arrange a sufficient spell trap back row to live a turn, but that would mean that you're using deck space that you would normally use to just play your game plan. So it's just, it's not worth it. I think the idea of, like, just writing a condition that you can't summon those monsters on your opponent's turn is decent. Because there's guys that are not like that. Like, there are guys that are designed to be used that way, like Protoss and VFD. VFD is banned. Protoss should go back to jail, but for some reason, I think right now Konami is trying to make Ritual Beasts like a good third deck. We'll see that with some of the rest of this stuff.
But yeah, to give an example, decks from 10 years ago could still kill you if they're able to blank one of your turns. So like, decks nowadays can kill you on the first turn if they could attack. Like, granted, obviously that's not how it goes, but most decks can set up a board turn one that can kill you.
Yeah, especially because you don't have to get put in any interaction. But so we're going to look at Limited. This one's a lot bigger. So first of all, Ava to 1. I know a lot of people are freaked out by this. I don't actually think this is a problem now that Beatrice is gone.
It'll probably be fine.
I think the main issue with Ava was that you could, because the Drytron, Cyber Angel soup deck, Herald soup deck made rank 6 is really easy. You could just use Beatrice to bin Ava and other cards. Now you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. So Ava can come back to 1, probably.
It will. I think it will still make a lot of random little ritual soup or like fairy soup decks really good because Ava is an insane card. But honestly, I don't think one Ava is going to make it better than Snake Eyes, Fiendsmith.
And that's okay, because that's I think what we want. We want more decks to come in. Ash and Poplar both to 1. This does consistency hit. Snake Eyes, I know a lot of people wanted. So I'm going to diverge a little for a side topic, but this is a conversation I've been seeing since the weekend when they actually posted this. A lot of people wanted Flamberge Dragon, which I know that Danny, Luke Von Karma, and several others have called to just derisively calling Flame Barf. So if I say Flame Barf or Flamberge,
it's always something juvenile.
Yeah, it's we got to say something silly because we just don't like him. But I think the reason why they did not ban Flamberge or limit him outright is actually an issue that a lot of people don't think about, and it's funny to me. So lots of people complain, oh man, the Yu-Gi-Oh meta, it's super tier 0 and also really expensive. Oh no, the prince, the high rarity, blah. Fiendsmith was, I think even with the Lacrima ban, fairly affordable because it had several commons, including Closed Sky, the little goddess. Lacrima was a common. So
I pulled that out of a fucking card pack.
Yeah, they've got some lower rarity stuff. Tenpai is also super low rarity. Snake Eyes is very expensive. We are in the reprint season for the tins. They have confirmed several Snake Eyes type cards are being reprinted. Diabelle, I believe, is getting a reprint. Poplar may be getting a reprint. Bonfire for sure is getting a reprint. That's a card that was very expensive. They haven't announced it yet, but I'm strong suspicion that Flamberge is getting a reprint. And now we live in the dichotomy. If you play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, you bitch about the price, but you still pay the price, and then you complain about the format for 6 months. Now, people who don't want to pay $200 to get into the format are going to be able to pay not $200 to get into the format, but you're tired of the format for 6 months. And it strikes me as a little hypocritical, because yes, I understand the format has been this way for 6 months. You could have just not spent the $200. You know they're going to reprint it. You could have played shittier decks until the deck was more affordable. Now that it's affordable to the general populace, you are the ones bitching about it on YouTube and Twitter. So, Konami needs to move product. And so they're probably not going to ban cards that are going to get cheap reprints. Cheap reprints that 3 months ago, even 6 months ago, you were begging for. You were yelling on Twitter that the reprints weren't coming fast and cheap enough. Now they're probably coming. You're like, but I don't fucking care. I don't want to be in this meta anymore. What are you doing to me, man?
I think part of it also overlaps with issue of how I guess a competitive cycle usually revolves in people being able to make up some form of loss, and there hasn't been that. So like it's been this cycle of people feel this desire to be at the top of something because it's just what they're committed to, because that's how life goes sometimes.
You're in it to win it, and
it's left to you get nothing in the end. So, or nothing that you can really do anything with. So it leads to this. So like I think that problem is also in tandem with what you said. So like it looks like that to some cases, but I think it's also compounded by just the separate issue there.
Yeah.
If I may pose a general theory on the whole thing.
Go for it.
I'm going to get a little in the weeds for a little bit in this conversation, but
That's fine.
Let me cook.
We're not Banlist.
For example, right now, wrestling is in like a renaissance. Like WWE, AEW, they're all putting on great shows, and because of that, when things are like okay, people are like but it's still a good product. Yu-Gi-Oh right now is kind of fucking shit. If we're all being a little blunt about it, it's not great. And because of that, when things are just not like when things aren't bad, but they just feel okay, everyone complains because the overall product is not good.
May I say?
think this is just a like we are in a low point for Yu-Gi-Oh right now where nothing seems to be going right.
Cycle.
Yeah, nothing seems to be going right, and because of that, just everything that's happening just feels bad. Even if on the horizon we know like we're gonna get the reprints for the Snake Eyes cards that will make it more playable for other people, and who knows, like in another few months that we'll get banned, but that's just the cycle of Yu-Gi-Oh, and I think that's just the mentality that the game has forced on the players to expect, where okay, deck is really good, deck is broken, it will get reprints, and then we'll get unceremoniously banned very quickly after the reprints. At this point, we had a format for what 5 months, 6 months, right?
Yeah. Admittedly, like Snake Eyes Fiendsmith specifically has been much shorter, but yes, Snake Eyes cards have been playable for like 7 months, I think technically.
Yeah, so like we're at the cycle of everyone is assuming they're going to kill these decks because it's been so long, but because the reprints have not come yet, they're not going to immediately kill the deck. They're going to hurt its consistency, but still make it playable, so the reprints happen and people can come in to play these really powerful decks at a cheaper price tag than, just to be brutally honest, absurd price ranges. Like when I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh competitively, Necros had just come out, and there were jokes of people taking out credit cards, like maxing out credit cards just to purchase that deck. And even then, like that's nothing. That doesn't look anything compared to Snake Eyes. Like another example, Cosmo, Dark Destroyer was going for like hundreds of dollars at pre-release prices. It's been a cycle, but because in the era of Necros, Cosmo, Secret Forces, that timeline, it was that time frame, it was just people were enjoying the product. Like people were more cracking jokes at how absurdly expensive the product was, as opposed to complaining about it.
I wish I had more to say besides, do you guys know the study of how when a person loses, you have to win twice as much to feel the equivalent amount of emotional effect?
I've heard similar things about the negative feedback. That's something that content creators and streamers always say is like, when you get a negative comment, you gotta get like 2 or 3 really good comments to hit it back, because that negative shit sticks with you a lot harder. Yeah, I think I agree with what both you and Vesper are saying.
I also think I should mention that if they wanted to actually kill the deck, why is there no limited Diabell Star?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Here's the other thing, and I want to bring this up because not only are we talking about reprints, which Vesper mentioned, and I mentioned that those are coming back. This is another thing that, like, this is one of those cases where people are obviously, they're down, they're bored of the format. This ban list will probably not change the exact nature of the meta. You're going to see Fire King Snake Eyes back, probably. I think that's the better Snake Eye variant now, which is interesting. That will be slightly different, but still not that different. They can't limit Diabell or Flamberge, probably because the TCG is still locked to the OCG product. The OCG has already released the Azamina cards, which are a Sinful Spoils fusion support deck archetype that goes into this process. I don't know their exact requirements, but several of them are designed around Sinful Spoils, Diabell Star, Snake Eyes type stuff.
and
Which will, once again, also make this deck Tier 0 again with a new range of support. But the problem is that Konami...
It's like branded.
Yeah, it is kind of like branded. Konami knows that product is coming. They have to sell this product, Chad. This is a thing that I don't think enough people are mentioning, because they're like... Mostly I see people, because like Vesper said, we're in a down phase right now. We're in the it's so over phase. People are in a mood to complain. People are complaining that Azamina just means that Snake Eyes is going to come back. But they're not thinking about the fact that those sets already exist. I do not think the TCG has the power to change the content of those sets in such a way to not release the Azamina like that, which means they need their vendors to buy this product and put it on the shelves, and then those vendors need that product to leave the shelves. That is how the physical store market works. Product goes on shelves, has to come off of shelves.
My Target has stopped stocking Yu-Gi-Oh product.
I've heard that about a lot of like Targets and other sites. I don't know if that's like a cost thing or just because people are so yelly on the internet, the product doesn't move. We'll see. But if you are a dedicated hobby store, you need to get rid of the product.
All that's been there is stuff that just hasn't moved in months.
Yeah, so like
I
do think Yu-Gi-Oh does need to like think about their product lineup and like produce some better bangers. The first Rarity Collection was really cool. The second Rarity Collection, kind of mid. I think the reprints for the new tins are looking pretty hot. Like I said, Bonfire's in there among some other shit. But no matter what, they need to sell the product, because if they cannot move the product off the shelves, the stores have to stop buying it because they need product that will sell. So Konami can't ban Diabell Star and Flamberge shit because they have to sell future product. And it's like, I get that nobody really wants to hear that, but it is a thing of like, well, what do you want the TCG to do? They can't change the OCG cards. The OCG still hasn't killed this deck, and they're struggling.
All the archetypes they make,
success.
all the exclusives they make, aren't selling products.
Yeah, I think
Which is
that's the answer is, please, for the love of God, make Mimikul good. We can move some... Listen, Vesper just talked about how the fucking Cosmos shit, that moved product, that was a world premiere, Konami. You're leaving money on the table. Give us good world premieres.
Okay, whatever world premieres. I remember a thing we're supposed... I remember, like, there's a weird conspiracy theory that... also, I guess it's just like... One, I've seen this from other... I guess, outside of sort of reactions where people were just annoyed that, like, some of their favorite cards have been hit.
It happens.
There has been things of people saying that this hits some decks that needed to be hit, but it doesn't kill them or like maim them in any way. It just makes them stumble a little bit, then they're just gonna keep running again.
But honestly, actually, while there are hits to Yubel, like opening the Spirit Gates, for instance, on here, and I think like technically the Fiendsmith engine does like limit some of Yubel's plays. Yubel is still probably a really good deck.
They could have just kept Skill Drain banned.
Yeah, but I think right now Konami, both in the TCG and OCG, is in a phase of powerful floodgates to 1. Like, that also is technically a hit to Snake Eyes, because Diabell Star can, like, send spell traps and shit like that. So, like, they're working on it. It's a weird one. Prosby to 1 is very interesting. I think that helps reduce the consistency of lots of decks. It's not perfect, but I think Prosby and stuff to 1 and Master Duel's been very effective.
We glossed over it, but I saw you had marked it a second ago.
Yeah, I highlighted the two
gimmick puppet assholes. Rip Bozo.
The limit 1 kills the FTK.
It became a good deck, but I guess it was only an FTK, huh?
It's probably still a good deck because Konami hasn't hit their field spell, which once again gives them blanket effect immunity. But you can't FTK anymore.
I'm sure there'll still be like a decent like rogue deck, because when you give decks like this, like I'm reminded of Goki, where Goki was like when Goki started out, it was an insane resource engine and like just resource loop of infinite recursion, but it didn't have anything to do with it. Same with Gimmick Puppets, where it's an anime deck. Like it has all kinds of random, nonsensical bullshit anime cards that just do things. And when you suddenly give that deck a field spell that tells your opponent, nuh-uh, let me do things, I'm sure you can do stupid shit.
Sorry, I'm editorializing the ban list right now. So, talking about some other hits, yeah, Gimmick Puppet FTK, dead. Rather than just hit Sanctifier, which is still something I don't know, a lot of people are saying that probably means we're getting the Albaz files over here. so they don't want to like hit anything out of it. Whatever. It's a collection of like one of every Albaz card. They should still send it to jail. So you can still get Gimmick Puppet locked. But we put Branded Fusion to 1. I'm not really sure what that does besides makes branded players feel more like martyrs, which is not what we should. Branded players should feel bullied. They should feel oppressed.
They're old news nowadays.
Yeah, but they still exist, and I'm tired of seeing this. You want to talk about cards?
But also, branded players like you still exist.
No, we don't. We don't got nothing.
You are alive, which means you exist.
I forget the general consensus, but it did seem like the branded fusion hit was received positively among a lot of the competitive players.
It's confusing. It seems like it balances out the deck a little better, and it is a way that Master Duel has had Branded Fusion a 1 for like forever, like I think like 6 months. And honestly, I don't run into branded decks a lot, so I think it's kind of working to like keep their consistency down.
Okay, this is a weird thing I have to ask. As I am a mythical mid-range, what are you, Omega?
Oh, I don't actually know. Like, I think it depends on the deck, really, but I've played everything. Like, I've played OTK decks, I've played control decks, like actual control, not stun decks. I don't usually like to play stun.
I like actual control.
Like, I like the part of Yu-Gi-Oh! I like is, I think I like combos, but usually I just like interaction. Like, I just like playing cards that flow really well. Like right now, I played Centurion for a while in Master Duel. It's fun, but it's very samey. So I went back to, after they added a couple of new illusion cards, I went back to my Chimera Fusion deck. And that's a deck that's just like, I just like it because that's just so fun and consistent of just like, ooh, I'm going to pitch Coatl to search Gazelle. I normal summon Gazelle to search a guy, search a fusion. You know, and it has plays that are pretty big and swingy, like you can make Guardian Chimera on your opponent's turn with Chimera Fusion. The one of the two, like, pretends to be Flying Chimera, is like a hand rip turn 1, which is a pretty standard turn 1 play. But it's a deck that has a lot of, like, recovery and interaction, and it's just kind of, like, interesting to play. But I also, like, as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I don't have that bone in my body to, like, run a deck as, like, a 15 card engine, and then my other 15 cards are one of hand traps. Like, I just can't do it. I'm just like, but I don't want to play 15 hand traps. I want to play more of the cards that are my deck. Hand traps aren't my deck. Which means that I'm not that competitive. As
someone that feels like I have never been able to pick up any of the archetypes because the ones I like, everyone says I am a villain. I'm awful for liking them.
It is funny. You seem drawn to like decks that have very unique play styles, but sadly they're
like,
often
Snake Eyes seems cool, but like
miserable to play against the other people. I've never actually
cool
tried Snake Eyes because it was like a deck that was super expensive in Master Duel. I like have a brew built finally, but I've never played it just because I don't know. I'm waiting for White Woods. That seems much more interesting.
I feel weird because it's like I've always really liked Xyz era Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's like it's not slow, but it's not like full of, I guess, eternal bullshit. Oh, less it is. I don't know.
I mean, there were a few problem cards in that era, like Shockmaster and shit. But like, I think the Zexal Xyz era was like generally thought of pretty well.
Or I guess like I like
it too. As much of a problem as he was very much like. It's revisionist history in a sense of like Shockmaster was always bad, but he was nowhere as bad as everyone talks about him.
I think it's because a lot of people think about him in the context of now, and they're like,
yeah,
how much of a pain in the ass Shockmaster would be if you were playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh?
Because 3/4s, you can sneeze and you summon 5/4s.
Yeah. I mean, no, like there are so many decks I play that are just 4s on 4s on 4s. But yeah, I highlighted it. That grass looks greener to 1.
I'm excited for this. I honestly, I love the pile format. Like the pile format was fun.
I have a question then. What cards do you play in the deck also just to be able to get the card in your hand?
I mean, you
probably Left Arm Offering.
Yeah, if you really need grass, you play Left Arm Offering, I think. Otherwise, it's just, I think you just cycle through your deck as fast as possible, and
Is there
playing 60
a card that lets
so.
you play a card that's in your grave?
Oh, wait, no. Vesper, I remember the other thing. We don't think about this a lot because we haven't been playing very modern. Thrust. Thrust lets you get a normal
Thrust.
spell.
You can just add any spell.
Yeah, you get to add technical
So I guess you
Thrust.
play 3 left arm, 3 thrust.
Yeah, and stuff like that. And you're playing like 60 cards probably, or at least more than 40, to make it work, and you just go for it. And I put Ripbos at a skill drain to 1. Well deserved. Absolutely deserves to go
Yeah.
there.
Look, all the old school continuous trap floodgates, they all deserve to suffer.
Well, this is the thing I want to say, because you'll notice that this is where it would have been. D-Shifter was not banned or limited. I know D-Shifter is really annoying to play under. Y'all, chat, if you've listened to me doing Yu-Gi-Oh content, we've been doing like Prague and Fail Portrayal and shit for literally years. Y'all know I hate cards like DeFi and Macrocosmos just because they make playing the game of Yu-Gi-Oh so annoying. At the same time, I think, generally from my impression, is that D-Shifter is not a card that needs to be banned to go away. If the top decks don't lose to D-Shifter and the second best decks in the format can't play D-Shifter, D-Shifter goes away on its own. It's annoying that it can come back, and it may eventually see a line on the list just because, you know, design philosophies may change. But I think Konami doesn't necessarily want to exile it out because it is a situation that is very meta-dependent. And I think a lot of hand traps are like that. Now, I do think that, like, Multi-Charmy, Furoros, like, those are cards you're going to see all over the place. And God knows that's going to be interesting now that we're approaching Max C-type formats again. But, like, Valor was unpopular for a long time. Nibiru is very meta-dependent. I know a lot of people say, well, your deck still loses to Nib, but, like, is every deck playing Nib? Not really.
Yeah, it's a situation of, like, I am personally a fan of hand traps that require the entire deck to be built around playing them. Hence why, as annoying as Shifter is, I'm fine with it because the other deck still has to play with it. You know?
Yeah, and also, like I said, I actually think the TCG is genuinely trying to make Ritual Beast better, because they know that people don't like this meta. They want other decks that are not Snake Eye, that are not Fiendsmith/Fiend Link, and are not Tenpai to be good. So they're trying to keep other decks good, which is what I think the semi-limit list is. Now, I do want to protest. We could have put Blaster, Redox, Tempest, and Tidal to 3. If we're going to do it, do it. Pull the Band-Aid off, Konami. Oh, awaken the D-Link players. Summon us back. It's time to go back to ruler format, everybody. But yeah, how wild is this semi-limit, chat? This list is just a who's who of old fuck you cards. Every ruler.
Yeah,
Colossus to 2.
The semi-limit list is just all of them are U's. They're all U.
Tiger to 2. Ib to 2.
My child, Tiger.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, common charity players are eating good with Lunalights. Tiger to 2, baby.
Common charity has been ruined once again.
And it's so weird to me because, like, I don't want to be in a world where you can play 3 of Colossus because he's such an annoying asshole. Like, he's so easy to get out because you can just play Nemesis Flag and Corridor and stuff. But, like, does Colossus to 2 actually do anything in the meta?
I don't think
he
so.
does. It's so weird to me. But hey, Colossus to 2, baby. He's coming back. It's nuts.
And was Ib at 1 before?
Yes, they brought Ib back to 1. Ib didn't do anything, so we're slowly loosening things up.
I always want to call it the Justicar, but it's just a CR.
Yeah, there is an extra I. I think it is just a CR.
I mean, just to see it. It also can play that too.
But finally, let's talk about our unhit list, which is also another case of you.
Armageddon.
Hey, guess
really
what?
funny.
Isolde is dead, so we could put Armanite to 3. Red Rose Dragon to 3. Finally, the pile decks are back.
Flushfire because he. I honestly I forgot it was on this list because it got eroded. But yeah, Flushfire's back.
Flushfire and Fairy Dragon both got eroded, so they're back to 3. Kieran, I don't remember if we eroded or not, or just we decided Kieran is no longer a pain in the ass.
We didn't errata Kieran. Kieran's as Magic Spectre. What's it gonna do?
Yeah. Danglong back to 3. That's it's shocking to me, but I think Konami is correct that we no longer live in a world where make Danglong search 1 negate actually like ends the game.
Time seal because it was on the ban. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it just doesn't.
I'm worried about letting cards like Time Seal off because we've talked about turn skipping and like the meta environment of Yu-Gi-Oh is so much more broad to allow you to abuse Time Seal with shit like Transaction Rollback, Maiden of Blue Tears, you know, all the Trap Trick, Trap Track type cards, you know? But also, like, if that's sub replay Friday shit, right? That's table 500 shit. If you're actually doing that at a competitive tournament, first of all, assuming that, like I said, just the other guy doesn't just beat your ass for doing it, like, if you can actually win a competitive event that way, I guess go for it. But
yeah, if you can win with a time seal turbo, good on you at this point, man. Like,
it's just like
good
I said,
on you.
it's I don't want it to be us to live in a world where you can be time sealed 3 times, but like also I don't think people will. I don't think it'll actually happen, and it won't, be a problem. But so we've ended up spending an extra time because this ban list has been very divisive. We may end up splitting this episode into 2 parts because today we're here to talk about Endymion. Because Endymion's very weird, Chad.
Yeah, I will say overall, I think the ban list is good. Like, obviously, it's not going to be perfect because we are in a very odd format. But I think overall, it's a good ban list.
Yeah, I think it was a good ban list. I think the general conclusion I've seen from most people who are not just like immediately reneged because they're like, oh shit, this doesn't change anything, which it may or may not, is most people agree that the ban list was good, but they don't think it went quite far enough. I'm hopeful that it does seem like Konami does like observe the feedback even if they don't respond to it directly. I am hopeful that after Rise of the Abyss and the Tin series, like, they're probably going to have a ban list, hopefully not quite as long as this one, but hopefully we'll have a ban list probably around like November, December, which will be much harsher. Chat spoilers, D-Shifter's still not getting banned. Malice is coming out in early December. That is the archetype, the Link archetype that banishes a lot. They're gonna want you to play D-Shifter, everybody. I'm sorry. But yeah. So Endymion, though, as an archetype, very odd. And we are including a lot of the, or rather, I included in the list a lot of the other like spell counter associated cards because they have a lot of connection back and forth.
This could very easily end up a 2-parter where our first half is covering the old school Endymion, and the second half is covering the new school Endymion, which is a completely different deck, if we're being honest.
Yes, no, it's so we're doing this because just to keep on trucking and chewing through cards, and to chew through cards we wouldn't normally talk about. We're talking about like structure decks lately. We did the zombie one last month, and that video and I think that look back at history was very well appreciated. So Endymion as a structure deck, I'm pretty sure was made by Konami to try and turn spell counters into a cohesive thing. Spell counters were technically in the anime. Breaker the Magical Warrior, famous anime card, and who may have been in the manga, I'm not sure. Because he was around the Battle City era. So, like, there is a certain, like, undertone of the spell counter mechanic as, like, a Yugi or Atem thing. And I will spoil it. We're not talking about any of the skilled magicians again today. We've talked about those in the archetypes where they've come up previously, and we'll talk about the ones we haven't talked about when they come up. But there are cards.
Do
like
not see it having shown up in the manga.
Okay, so it was an anime only card, but still a.
Looking at it, Breaker the Magical Warrior was not Battle City. It was its first appearance was the draw monster card.
Hell! So it's an Orichalcos original. All right, well, still sick.
It's an Orichalcos original.
Draw monster card.
Yeah,
I mean, Breaker the Magical Warrior is a sick card.
Everybody knows. Yeah, that was Breaker.
So, like, I understand why Konami has tried to keep spell counters relevant. And like I said, they've tried to, like, make it into kind of a thing. So we know a little bit about Endymion because they are doing that manga, the OCG Stories manga. He's a guy who does magic and stuff.
He's a magic man.
So, there's a lot of biography stuff. He is, like, also supposed to be a king, but he decided not to be a king and to become a wizard. He works with the Magistus crew, who I think we may have mentioned before. We've done the Magistus stuff.
Yeah, it was the whole style with Magistus where, it takes place in the Endymion world where, like, the girl of Magistus was, like, taken in by Endymion as an apprentice or something.
Yeah.
It gets weird.
We're also only one volume into the OCG.
I think they explain in the book or something.
Yeah, I think the manga will cover it because like I said, I don't actually think there's actually no. Hold on, we've got. Let's see, Master Guard 4. Which era of Endymion is this? Okay, so we do got it. So Endymion runs the Magical Citadel, which you can see on the screen now. So he is against a group called La Maison, who give out the knowledge, which, by the way, is translated as handed out the knowledge of magical knowledge willy-nilly. That's what it says on the wiki. So basically, Endymion is a classic wizard king. He runs a wizard castle / academy, and he only lets people he thinks are cool learn magic, because if every asshole could learn magic, we'd be fucking dying or something. He is associated with the spellbooks and the prophecy team, but they are not necessarily one for one for him. He has as an administrative city, he has runs the Citadel. He has 2 bodyguards we'll see later, Crusader and Defender. It is very funny that Breaker was still like in the anime, so they don't like give him a backstory. Let's see.
I think Breaker is it wasn't meant to be part of the Endymion storyline, but he had a spell counter, so I guess he's part of it now.
Yeah, he's just in the loop. We talk about like the different groups who control magic and stuff. Mythic Institution in the suburbs. That's so funny. Oh, okay. So La Maison is either the name of Alistair's group or his book. So Alistair is just like magical WMDs for everybody. Everybody should be able to summon ice dragon devils. And whatever the fuck else invoked monsters are.
You know, if you're vaguely aware of Alistair's real world origin / reference, it kind of vibes. It vibes with it.
And obviously, Endymion is named after the figure from Greek mythology, though that guy was originally just like a shepherd or hunter, though he may have been a king, but the moon goddess Selene sees him and thinks he's, really hot and puts him to sleep. And they bang a lot. I assume that his relationship with the Selene character, who is the Selene Queen of Magicians, is hopefully less problematic.
Hopefully.
But yeah, so the first half of Endymion, and like I said, we've been going for 45 minutes already, and we're talking about our first card, so we probably will split this, because I know Axe has to go at some point as well. But we'll chew through what we got to start. Our first card here is the Citadel, which is the all-important field spell. Because even as early as, let's see, when exactly did Structure Deck come out? Spellcaster's Command came out in 2009.
And anyone who's ever been Exodia FTK'd is probably very familiar with this card. Not for Endymion, but for other reasons.
Yes, and Royal Magical Library is in this list, so we'll talk about that as well. Like I said, this is kind of like why we're doing this or why I like to do this format change, because it lets us talk about classic-ass Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you're never, ever going to discuss otherwise. So, Magical Citadel says, each time a spell card is activated, place a spell counter, place 1 spell counter on this card when that resolves. If a card with spell counters is destroyed, put its spell counters on this card. Once per turn, if you would activate a card effect by removing spell counters from a card you control, you can remove that many spell counters from this card instead. If this card would be destroyed, remove a spell counter from this card instead. So, Magical Citadel, I think, is still played in some versions who are trying to run the Endymion deck today, because this is really one of the earlier examples of a comprehensive archetypal field spell. So first of all, this card is a battery for spell counters. It generates spell counters whenever you do a spell card, like most spell counter cards that are good do. If you have a card that stores other spell counters that gets destroyed, they move to Magical Citadel, which has no limit on the number of counters it can hold, by the way. And also, it has an effect. It has an effect that mirrors the good effect of Kyoto Waterfront and its kaiju counters, which is if you would destroy Citadel, Citadel just removes 1 counter instead. And also, it allows you to use it as a battery for any of your other spell counter spending effects. It's a good card. It's very solid. Like I said, Konami really tried to make this a cohesive strategy. Will it work?
Yes and no. We'll just say that. We'll say yes and no.
So the thing we need to know about Endymion is whatever happens in the Magistus Mungo arc. The modern Endymion is super extra. Here he is, the original big boy, Endymion, the Master Magician. Look at this guy.
Look at this dude.
He's very purple. I think even his skin may be purple now. His skin was not purple before. He has a really, really fancy mask on. He's got a full ring halo thing on his back with the symbol of the spell counter. That little sort of Triforce thing is the spell counter symbol.
He's very much just he's very much just dark magician in like his midlife crisis era. I think is a good way to phrase it.
Yeah. Now I do want to say this is good card art because we've got like God Rays and Sparkle and stuff, but like character design wise, you see. Yeah. If you see Endymion, Master Magician, out of the corner of your eye, you go, that's some kind of spell counter bullshit card. Yes, it's Endymion. Like
it makes me feel like it's. The way to say this is like it makes me feel like this is the Dark Magician of a fantasy story instead of like a weird occult horror story.
Yeah, probably. Like he's got extra tiers. He's gone up a couple raid tiers in his armor set.
This is the Archmage Dark Magician.
But this guy's got some interesting notes. And also, it's only 2009, but this guy is absolutely loaded with Konami orbs.
Oh yeah, this guy is like Gen 0 Konami orbs. Yes. Even if he didn't know it yet.
Yeah. I mean, technically, those orbs are spell counter.
I don't think they've all got the symbol in them, so they're not like exactly like that. But yes, I think the idea was they're supposed to invoke the spell counters.
No, I'm looking closer.
Oh, no, actually,
the spell counter is on like the ones on his waist for sure. Like they're slightly bigger, you can kind of see it.
Yeah.
I think they are all meant to be the spell counters.
All right, so yeah, the spell counter is kind of patient zero for that. By the way, this guy's name in the OCG is Shinsei Mado O Endymion. Endymion, the holy magical king. So they just went Master Magician. Endymion is a dark spellcaster. By the way, chat, you're going to see a lot of spellcasters who don't look like spellcasters in this episode, especially because we're doing the old shit first. He's level 7. He's got 2,700 attack, but only 1,700 defense. So he is not the ultimate wizard in terms of both attack and defense.
That's Dark Magician.
Yeah. But you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard by removing 6 spell counters from a magical citadel you control. If summoned this way, target a spell card in your graveyard, add it back to your hand. Once per turn, discard a spell, target a card on the field, destroy that target. Honestly, again, for 2009 card design, regular Endymion's pretty good. It is a little annoying that it has to be exactly 6 spell counters from the magical citadel, and I think a lot of future cards try to get around that. But, like, again, for 2009 card design, this guy can be specialed from hand or graveyard. If he's summoned, you add back a spell, which is an incredibly broken effect back in the day. And also, if you've got useless spells in your hand, you can discard them for a pop. The only thing this guy is missing to not be like a modern like style of card is he has no protection. So, but like all in all, he's a decent style. So
yeah, like for the base. For the base, they will theme every other of Endymion's just alternate alt forms in later editions. This is the genesis of that.
Yeah.
Like, it works well.
So, first off, we're going to look at some cards that are heckin' old and weird. So, first, alphabetically, going to the old school, because spell counters started coming out, in Magician's Force. That was the big pull. Even previous structure deck. So, this is Armor X. It's written EXE, but it is, in the Japanese, it is written as Mado Armor Exe. So, he is Armor Exe. And I have to go grab my bottle of water, because I'm getting a little dry-throated, but I'm just going to leave you with this guy.
I always look at this guy. I'm like, what the hell is an Exe? Like what is it? See, I'm pulling up the trivia page to see what the hell that means. Well, I'm not seeing anything.
What are we thinking about this?
I was trying to see as is there a reason this card's name is called Exy? And all I found in the trivia page is that apparently on the old official website ruling section, this card had a ruling that stated how to pronounce its name.
Exe. Okay, weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy, like, design-wise, I mean, classic Yu-Gi-Oh! This guy is in a Photoshop filter void. He's covered in veins for no reason. Spikes and claws and horns for days. But he does have a spell counter, which is cracked in his chest. So yeah, that's spooky. I like the vibes, but also, my god, what are you? Talking when Axe is like, I'd love a Kingsfield style game for this. If you were playing a dungeon crawler RPG and turn the corner and run into this guy, you are turning around so fast. Nah, man. Look at his danger hands. So what this guy does. So first of all, this is not a spellcaster, chat. Sorry to ruin it for you. This is a light rock. You heard me correct.
Huh.
Light rock. He is level 4. He has 2,400 attack and 1,400 defense. Now, you, chat, hopefully you know better. You know how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works. You know there's got to be a drawback. This card cannot attack the same turn it is normal, flip, or special summoned. During each of your opponent's standby phases, remove one spell counter from your side of the field. If you do not, destroy this card. So, yeah, Armor Ixie is just one of the classic big bunglers. Like, he's just a big asshole with a drawback, like, Panther Warrior, Goblin Attack Force, all those kinds of guys. And in particular, he is annoying because it's opponent's standby phase.
Light Rock is just a funny combo. Like, I love cards like this where it's just like, who cares? Whatever. Just
yeah, like I
give
said,
it a
we're going to see
combo.
some guys who are going to be called spellcasters that you're going to be like, huh? But I felt the need to include this guy in the list just because this is a light rock that is technically spell counter associated, and it's like, what? Huh? It's crazy. Our next card is actually going to be one, though, that some of you have probably heard of or seen. Saw this bozo a lot in our Prague series, but is very intimately tied to spell counters and spellcaster cards. It's Apprentice Magician.
Yeah, this. See, okay, so Apprentice Magician is one of those cards that, like, because it was on just tiny cards as a kid, I thought this was a girl,
Yeah, and a lot of people have, like, because I think he's holding a similar staff to Magician of Faith. But no, I think it's definitely, I think, supposed to be a dude. I almost feel like the impression is this is supposed to be, like, they went for a vibe like it's a young Dark Magician. But also, there's no way the Dark Magician would be caught dead in this hairstyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is certainly a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card of all time. We've got, once again, Photoshop filter background. We added some motion blur. Why? I don't know. He's got some belts. Got some belts on belts. Got a lot of the spell counter symbol going on. He's just vibing. But so this is a Dark Level 2 Spellcaster, 400, 800. If this card is summoned, target a face-up card in your field that you can place a spell counter on, put a spell counter on it. When this card is destroyed by battle, special summon a level 1, level 2, or lower spellcaster monster from your deck in face-down defense position. This is the thing Apprentice Magician was used for much more likely, because he can fetch Magician of Faith or Vindictive Old Magician, etc. Hell, he can even float into himself. So, like, this was a card in early Yu-Gi-Oh! In the Magician's Force-type era of just a good way to cycle low-level Magicians in face-down to set up your flips. But he does have an effect where if he's summoned, you can actually, like, add a spell counter. It's only one spell counter, so I don't think it's got any relevance these days, but it's definitely something that's, like, good to note. Anything we want to say about Apprentice Magician before I move on to our next weirdo magician?
the red headband is a choice with the rest of the colors in this design.
Yeah.
I just remember him being. I remember them being useful for. I don't know exactly, but it's like them, and I think like old and addictive. It's
Yeah.
because back then like
Both of
Spellcasters
which saw our
as like a tribal thing was good.
yeah, both of which saw our ban list, I believe. Because Apprentice, it was just really good, like really good advantage. He was a recruiter, but he recruited in face down defense.
Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of cards like that like in limited play, like Spear Cretin, Apprentice Magician, having a critical mass of recruiters will make the game miserable.
Because it's very different from a competitive sense, because it was a lot easier back in the day to set up loops of like flip cards. But our next one is Blast Magician. He's gonna blast you.
Now this guy looks sick.
Yeah. This is just good old school Yu-Gi-Oh art. He's got kind of a Dark Magician type hat, but he's got kind of a jaunty angle on it. Huge high collar. His armor is asymmetrical because he's got his staff on one side.
The staff that it's almost scythe-like or something.
This is the kind of guy who you run into in as a Dark Souls boss or something, and you think you understand what he's doing, and then you get up close and he just fucking hits you with the stick and rips your guts out. You're died.
Yeah,
no.
for no reason he has a melee move that's just an instant kill. Why not? Funny.
I also
His
like
air
again
combos.
the kind of asymmetrical, almost like his buttons with the spell counters. He's got a little bit of facial markings like Endymion will be shown later having, so there's a lot good going on here. I'm not sure what the background is supposed to be, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm trying. I was trying to look at it, and it's it feels like almost spellbinding circle-esque.
It's a weird geometric pattern of hexagons made up of the spell counter triangles, but they're not quite the triangles because they're more rounded. So they form circles. It's cool, but it's weird. I also don't know why he's also appearing out of a purple fog, and I don't know, he's in the fucking Cave of Wonders map from Kingdom Hearts, I guess, by that lighting behind him. I don't know what's going on back there. It's dark. But, this guy rips, which is a shame, because I think he's a pretty mediocre card. Yes, I've read his text.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay, but he definitely is way too... It's way too cumbersome to set up this guy, unless you already have a Citadel with, 20 counters on it.
I also want to say, this is a guy who has a super extra name in the OCG, which I greatly appreciate. This is Brado Magician Rengoku no Matsushi. Blood Magician, the Magician of Purgatory. Why would Upper Deck feel the need to make this just Blast Magician? Why, I wonder. But yeah, please give me
my favorite era of Yu-Gi-Oh! When the OCG was just naming cards whatever the hell they felt like.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
But yeah, no. So Blood Magician, or Blast Magician as he is, you will know him, is a fire spell caster, level 4. So, he's red. That's cool. He only has 1,400 attack, but 1,700 defense. And he does say, every time a spell card is activated, put a spell counter on him. When that resolves, you can remove any number of counters from this card, target a face-up monster on the field with attack less than or equal to the number of counters you remove times 700, destroy that target. So this is an interesting concept. I think the main problem is just keeping this asshole alive long enough to remove a guy, and also not just finding your Smashing Ground, Fissure, Offerings to the Doomed, Tribute to the Doomed, whatever. There are so many single target spot removal spell cards anyway. I don't know why you would play Blast Magician when you could just play those. He's sick, but he doesn't contribute, I think, enough to the strategy on his own. But
Yeah,
we're
like
already
the-
working.
In a later era, this card would just be remove any number of spell counters from the field to do it, and I feel like it would still be mediocre. But this is from the early days of
Because
we had to really keep the power
you
down.
probably need to remove 3 counters to make it worthwhile, because I know he's small, but you probably don't care about a monster unless it's at least 2,100 attack if you need to spot remove it,
Well, I mean, in general, you need to remove 3 counters to get anything over this guy's attack value, which
Yeah.
would be threatening him, which is way too much.
Yeah, I know. So it's not really worth it, but it was a cool attempt.
Yeah.
Well, now we're gonna have more questions because it's time. For
The only thing he's blasting his ass.
Well, it's time to see the other goat of this era. Him.
I just wonder how it feels to wear something like that. It feels like so comfortable.
Well, this is actually probably cumbersome because this guy's in metal armor, but it's him, everybody. Mado Senshi Breaker, Breaker the Magical
That's
Warrior.
why, this guy is just iconic. Yeah, his armor is a bit much. The lightning bolt side helms on his armor has
Once again,
ridiculous.
I do not know because this guy was anime original if this is a Kaz original art, but this is definitely in his style for not only magicians but also specifically magical warriors. That was a thing that showed up in the anime and manga every once in a while, and this guy has it because he's wearing the dark magician style robes, but they're now armor, and he's got the hat, and he's got, like you said, I don't know why he's got like lightning bolts coming off his visor, but it's cool, man. He's got a big shield. He's got a cool looking sword. The lines are a little like muddy in some places, but it's all in good fun. And red and gold with like a forest green inner to his cape. It's a pretty alright color scheme. His purple pizza background barrier is a little more garish, I think, with his color scheme, but man, who cares?
A big thing is things can look goofy, but as long as it all meshes together, it can still look cool. We had this problem with the Drytron boss monsters where there's just too much happening. It is a sin to the eyes to try to process everything happening on the Drytron boss monsters that nobody plays.
Yeah, and this guy's colors are subdued enough, and there's enough like lighting effects that it's not just all one uniform color that hurts your eye. It's no, this guy he has light, he has shadow. The colors are a little muted. It works, and he's just sick. If somehow you don't fucking know what Breaker the Magical Warrior does, which admittedly you might not, I don't think he's been relevant for many years, but this guy was a staple for a long time, and I believe was limited on the list for a while. I don't think he ever went to 0, but I'm fairly certain he was limited.
Yeah, he was never bannable, but this is definitely one of those guys. He was probably put at 1 for a decent amount of time.
This is a Dark Spellcaster level 4. He has 1600 attack, 1000 defense. But if this card is normal summoned, by the way, so no when issues, place a spell counter on it. Maximum of 1. Very smart of them to do that because I could see people abusing that, especially back in the day. Breaker gains 300 attack for each spell counter on it. You can remove 1 spell counter from this card, target 1 spell trap on the field, destroy it. Which, by the way, means that while I do believe this guy was limited when it came out, I think he was reprinted in the Endymion Structure deck. Because of the way Citadel works, Citadel means you can keep this guy as a 1900 beater and still pop back row.
Oh, yeah.
Which is pretty good. This guy has been reprinted approximately a bajillion times. Oh, the wiki actually has his limitation history.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy. When you think of spell counters, it was always Breaker.
He did go to 0.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he was limit 1 from 03 to 07 for about 6 months, and this is in the TCG. He was, not that it matters because I think these were back on the ban list, we're still synced up, but he was at 0 for 1 format, went back to 1 for a format, immediately went back to 0 for another format, and then finally in 08 he went back to 1, and he stayed that way until 2009 when they unlimited him. Which means, by the way, this guy was unlimited for the structure deck.
Oh.
So yeah, no, that's how good Breaker was. This guy went to 0 a couple of times.
This guy was, yeah, good. This guy was definitely just not at all a problem card, but just it was something that you always had to plan around because of, especially in the in the early to late 2000s, archetypes weren't a thing. Gladiator was the first major archetype.
Yeah.
Everything before them was just kind of you're just playing good cards.
This guy, I think, went to 1 early on in the the just dual monsters, chaos era. Because hey, he's dark type, so he goes in chaos decks. He went to 1 for a while, And I think, let me actually check what was out in that March list where he went to 0. That's when they also banned Magician of Faith. They remembered to actually ban Graceful Charity and Last Will. Ooh, yeah. So this is, I think, was just around when Breaker got banned. Was just around the time like archetype decks were starting to be a thing. Overload Fusion Limit 1, Elemental Hero Stratus, from 3 to 1, Grand Mole to 1 kind of thing. That deck, that ban list. So like,
I don't even know, like Grimo's an Neospatian, but people play Grimo because it was just a good card, not because of. Not because there's something in Chaos Neos.
He was put to 0 literally as we're just starting to start sniffing the idea of archetype decks, like in that late GX era. And like I said, he bounced around for a couple of years until they finally decided to unlimit him in time for the Synchro era, where I think that is once the extra deck became like crystallized as it is now as the proper extra deck, not just the fusion deck. Probably about the time that Breaker gets power crept as a staple. But that's really what he was when he came out. He was a staple. He was a power card, like cards like Raigeki and Mirror Force, because he could be a 1900 beater, or he could be spell trap removal, or both. You got a main phase too, so yeah, just so iconic. And like, honestly, still probably with the way spell counters work nowadays, like, you do have to normal him to get the card, so it's probably not ideal, but like, there's probably room to consider running Breaker in some decks just because, man, he's a guy. He's a house.
Like the thing is too is like for the longest time I just like what made Breaker insane was like he was just a 1900 normal summon. Yeah. Like he was a beater that could also be spell trap removal. So he was absurd flexibility that it like you ran it in every deck, because why wouldn't you? Like why wouldn't you run a 2K beater that could also pop a spell or trap? That sounds insane.
So our next card was not as successful as Breaker, but I do believe actually made his way into a couple of decks. This is Dark Red Enchanter. So actually is written as Dakuredo Enchanta, but was also written as Dark Red Mage. Dark Red Mage. My next class for Final Fantasy XIV. So Dark Red Enchanter is also very much in this vibe. He's dark and red. His hat, very silly.
Oh. I've never seen this card before, but I can see how this card was at least played.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it was as popular as Breaker, but I'm reasonably certain I've heard of it before in some lists. If you were going to try and make Spellcaster Tribal work, it was definitely worth a try, I think. But yeah, so here he is. He's dark red. He's got the same kind of gold highlights that Breaker does. He's got some orbs. They don't clearly show the spell counter effect, but I think that's what they're going for. He's got another Photoshop filter for a background. He's just Yu-Gi-Oh! Card simplicity. I don't really know what else there is to say about this.
Yeah, it's just a guy. Like it looks cool, but there's not too much to discuss on his design.
And I think this is one of the reasons why, like, there's another reason why Endymion is, like, etched into everybody's mind, which, again, we may not actually get to tonight because we're already at an hour and we haven't even touched, like, half the cards in the structure deck. We're still talking about how spell counters work. But, like, the other thing is, chat, is that, like, new school Endymion, like, was a record setter for card text length. People don't usually show him anymore. I think that it's MBT's fault that everybody shows Nirvana High Paladin instead. Even though,
but what about Chaos C Gustav?
Yeah, but Pendulum Endymion is infamous for having a lot of card text, most of which actually matters. Half the shit on Nirvana High Paladin is just like conditions. But so Dark Red Enchanter. Also, if you're experiencing buffering, don't worry. OBS will get over it. It is kind of flicking back and forth in the colors right now, but it'll settle out eventually. But Dark Red Enchanter is another dark spellcaster. This one is level 6, so it requires 1 tribute to summon. Has only 1700 attack, but 22 defense. And you might think to yourself, well, for an old school Yu-Gi-Oh card, that doesn't sound too great. But wait! If this card's normal summoned, put 2 spell counters on it. Each time a spell card is activated, place a spell counter on this card when it resolves. Gains 300 attack for each spell counter on it, so when it's normal summoned, it is actually 23, which is not terrible for a 6. Not the best, but, not the worst. once per turn, soft once per turn, you can remove 2 spell counters from this card, randomly rip 1. Discard a random card from your opponent's hand. So, not like, again, not ideal, but considering the era this came out in, this was Phantom Darkness, so this was, you know, in the late GX period. Actually, like, still a decent effect. A lot of hand rip stuff was like heavily under control by then, I think. Like, I know that all the you know, the classic like Sentry and Duo were
2008 definitely. And the other thing is too, like, this was in the time frame where they were trying to make all kinds of cards that would just shit spell counters out onto the board. Like, it didn't really matter. Like what was it? A spell empowering grasp or something that was just like,
yeah.
I pick a card that spell counter on, put another one on it. Who cares? Just put spell counters on cards.
Spell power grasp is just, you know, put 2. Pitch Black Power Stone is like a continuous trap that like generates like 1 a turn or something in your end phase. Like, there were a lot of ways to do it. And again, this was a little before, but I think this guy was reprinted in he was reprinted in the structure deck, which obviously would mean that you could also get like spend Citadel counters to do this. Obviously, he requires your normal, and he does require a tribute, so I think even by like the Synchro era, this was getting to be a little bit slow. But spend 2 spell counters for a hand rip, you know, you're probably activating spells anyway. And if not, he's like a 2300 guy.
If at this point you were playing a full spell counter deck with Citadel, you would summon this card and instantly take 2 off Citadel. You get a discard. Like you've accomplished it, and you still have a 2K beater on the board. Like, yeah. It's probably gonna get run over probably. But worst case scenario, it doesn't. You can just take the 2 counters off this card and then sync it off. It's
and hypothetically, like if you are activating enough spell cards, it keeps getting bigger because there was no maximum on it. So like, he can just recuperate his attack stat, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, this is the era of them just trying things.
Yeah.
Of like just like they're trying to see how far they can go with spell counters, and they never went far enough in this era, mind you.
Yeah.
But there were still a handful of spell counter cards that saw niche play. A Breaker is definitely the iconic one. I don't think anyone ever came close to Breaker. But there were still cards that I'm sure like were like little side deck texts, like you're playing, like, I mean, fucking, I can totally imagine seeing like double summon and other random stuff being played just to facilitate spell counters.
Well, and God knows there was enough, you know, generic spellcaster support, like Magician's Circle, you know, Spellcasters Unite, shit like that. Like,
yeah,
because spellcasters have always been one of, like, honestly, I feel like spellcasters have kind of, like, fallen to the wayside, especially since they introduced illusion monsters. Like, when was the last time we had a real good tribal spellcaster deck? I guess, technically, Dogmatica? Because most of those guys, I think, were spellcasters.
I guess so,
but
yeah.
That's still several years ago.
I mean,
but like dragons, machines, warriors.
All the tamers are spellcasters, aren't they? Like it's not a new deck, but it's back in vogue.
Yeah, so like spellcasters is like, I definitely think of the old school, like what like the anime advertised as the iconic like big 3 was definitely warrior, spellcaster, dragon. I think obviously over the years machine really took off as a generic like soup deck.
Especially of the Earth variety. But I know in Rush Duel, when it started out, Dragon and Spellcaster were far and away the best decks because they were just the best tribal typings.
Yeah, so like, and it's always been a classy one. So this is actually in the structure deck. This is Defender the Magical Knight. And this, I think, is a case of like...
Breaker's cousin.
Yeah. This guy's supposed to be one of Endymion's bodyguards. This, I think, is a case where they tried to do stuff with spell counters that... this is definitely a case where they didn't go far enough. Art-wise, as just...
I have something to say about this guy.
Go ahead.
His sword doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I think some of that is angle, because also look how tiny his arm looks. So I think our perspective is just absolutely fucked. But it looks like he's got a tiny dagger.
Yeah, like I don't care about angle nonsense. At most, that's a short sword, and you should not be wielding a short sword with a tower shield.
At least not by yourself. Like,
Yeah.
the technically, Roman Legion is short sword and shield, but also there's like 40 of you or 50 of you in a box or 80.
Yeah.
So, this guy is supposed to be one of Endymion's bodyguards. I guess he'll guard his body pretty good, but I don't know if he's gonna actually hit anybody.
I guess the idea is that Defender and Breaker are like a wombo combo. So like, okay, you got your Ornstein and Smaug style.
Well, so
combo.
here's the funny thing. This is technically, I think,
before?
a little later. But the guy who's supposed to be Ornstein and Smaug getting up with him, canonically, at least according to the Master Guide, which I think was a little later than the actual structure deck, but it's supposed to be Crusader of Endymion here, who's not even named the Magical Knight, and also looks like a freak. What is going on with this guy?
Oh.
Look at this man. What is happening?
Oh
God, it's
what?
more of the you get perspective issue.
Is he wearing a
this isn't
magical
even
power
perspective.
armor?
This is,
Yeah.
I don't mind the concept of what's happening here, but also how's he supposed to reach those weapons?
Like you don't.
I think they're like his arm guards are like magically
No,
linked to his arms.
They're definitely axes on his like shoulder pads that he cannot.
Oh yeah,
reach.
that's true. He has axes back there.
Like half axes, yeah.
I
So,
assume
they're
that-
like embedded into his armor. Like they're supposed to be pulled out. But
Yeah. Also,
I
I
guess
want
they
to
get
point out
magic
like the way his like boots are shaped. They've got big open sides. I know they seem like they're magically locked in there, but also don't do that. You're gonna slip sideways. You're gonna fall out of those boots, skinny man.
He's gonna trip and shatter his knee on his armor.
Yeah. So this design is not great. Like the perspective on Defender is bad because he's got his tiny toy sword, but like otherwise the kind of like the color comp and stuff is good. And if he was actually supposed to be in a wombo combo with Breaker, that makes a lot more sense. I have no idea why the lore book decided to say that he is like, I guess because Konami wouldn't let them use Breaker because he's in the anime.
I also just want to say this guy's way too lanky for being an offensive guy. Like I get he's
Yeah.
a spellcaster or something, but
Well,
like
hey,
if your whole gimmick is being an
let's use
armored
order.
man, you're lanky as shit.
So Defender is a light spellcaster, level 4, 1600 attack, 2k defense. So he's a 2k wall. If he's normal summoned, put a spell counter on him. Once per turn, if a spellcaster would be destroyed, remove a spell counter for each of those monsters instead. Cute effect. Problem. He only gets the counter when normal summoned. He's a big fat booty monster. This does not work, Konami. And I don't think that Defender was ever nearly as popular as Breaker because of it.
I mean, like even on Breaker's trivia page, it shout out Defender as his defensive cousin in terms of effect styling.
Yeah.
So I don't even see how this other guy is compared to him.
So Crusader of Endymion, like I said, he comes out a little bit later. He's another light level 4 spellcaster. He is a Gemini monster. He has 1900 attack and 1200 defense. So he's a normal monster on the field or in the graveyard. While this card is a normal monster in the field, you can normal summon it to have it gain the effect once per turn. Target a card that you can put a spell counter on, put a spell counter on. If you do, this card gains 600 attack until the end of this turn. So he's supposed to be a big, beefy boy. However, he is a Gemini monster and therefore has not been relevant. I think if you're going to run a 1900 Gemini beater, Neos Alias already exists. You don't need to do it. But yeah, so like the Master Guide said later these guys are supposed to be a duo, but it's very silly. Let us forget them. Let's talk about another weird card. And speaking about like effects that again are kind of like weird, but this is another card you've probably never seen. Disenchanter. In the OCG, Saint Disenchanter. This, by the way, is a Structure Deck original. This is from the Structure Deck. And God knows why they reprinted her in the... At least I think it's her, with those long nails.
I've seen this card, but I don't know what it does. But I recognize this artwork.
So she's like a weird elf lady. She's called Saint Disenchanter in the OCG. Her robe is like a baggy sweater. That's interesting.
Yeah, like this pose feels a little off. Like I don't think it's a bad pose. It feels like there's just a bit too much angling happening. Like she's like bending back and got her arms in a. Here's the
thing.
Pose for the staff.
We'll be we can respect women in this house. I think this is a pose that is drawn like the artist was gonna draw her in like, skimpy robes, like a sexy pose, with the back arched, chest kind of pushed forward, kind of a thing. But again, she's dressed very modestly, so it's just like, lady, why are you holding your stick like that? Isn't that gonna hurt your shoulders? That looks stiff as hell. And it's not like it's censored. This is just the card art everywhere. So like, I don't get it. I think the artist used a reference for this, and then, like I said, put her in a weird baggy sweater.
Yeah, because I don't see any benefit to this pose.
Yeah.
Like I get your spellcaster, you can be from range, so you can do whatever you want, but I don't see how this pose helps you wave your staff around to cast a spell. You're just posing for the JoJo aspect of posing.
I do like her drill hair. That's like a very good design. But yeah, no, I don't know what's going on here. So what this card does, this is a light spellcaster, level 5. She's got 2,000 attack and 2,300 defense. Once per turn, target a face-up spell on the field. Remove a spell counter anywhere from on the field. If you do, return that target to hand. So, like, honestly, if this was on a not one tribute monster, you'd probably have seen this more as a tech card.
Oh my god, it's a level. Oh, it didn't even.
Yeah, it's level 5. As it is, that is probably makes this card way too slow to work. But it's funny. Remove a spell counter from anywhere on the field, bounce a face-up spell. Funny, but not very useful at that speed.
Also, just like this feels like an Endymion counter card.
Yeah.
That still uses spell counters. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know. And she's been... this card's literally only been printed twice. Both times are in the Endymion structure deck. So, obviously not very popular. I shall send her to hell. Let's talk about this guy who looks like he came off the cover of a How to Draw manga book. This is legendary Flame Lord, a.k.a. Densetsu no Bakuen Tsukai, legendary Burst Flames Master.
I don't even say here.
Oh, this guy.
Hey, this is...
Isn't he a ritual monster?
Yes, this is the one ritual monster who uses spell counters. And, like, honestly, I joked about him looking like a How to Draw anime cover, which he kind of does. He has a very generic face, but, like, honestly, he's not bad. He's got a decent color scheme.
I think we are going a tad too hard on all the natural colors. I get he's a fireman, but we are just red, yellow, brown, like all over the place. Then we get like some purples in here. Like I don't like it's good. Like again, like this is a fine art. It definitely clashes with the rest of like the Endymion style, but it's just he's spell counter man. Like, yeah, it's fine.
And like pretty good light like fire effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Got a fairly generic face, and the colors are okay, but not groundbreaking. The problem is, sadly, this is a ritual card from back in the day. So, also, hey, he comes from an era before they fucking fixed that shit. And despite the fact that Dark Crisis had a 25th anniversary reprint, let me double check. Has he been given a proper errata? No. This guy was reprinted in Dark Revelations, and he says he can only be ritual summoned with Incandescent Ordeal, his ritual spell card. So he sucks, sadly. I don't know why Konami, like, when they do... I know people will bitch about the integrity of the retro product and shit, but, like, Dark Crisis had a 25th anniversary reprint. I don't know why they didn't just fucking fix this guy. Just say can be ritual summoned with Incandescent Ordeal. Which, by the way, is a very interesting card art. There's more fire in it. Apparently, he has a knife in that. But also, I don't think he's having a very good time. Also, apparently, he has one pant leg? At least before the fire burns it off. I do appreciate his fucking like rope tied together vest so you can see his abs. Like, this guy's going. Yes, Vesperius popped away for a second, so we'll get rid of this guy. Okay, you are back. All right. I've pulled up the card art for his ritual spell, which he can only be summoned with. Because
he's got a sword.
Yeah, he's got a knife, I guess. Maybe he lost it in the ordeal. I don't know.
Oh, you can see it on his back. You can see him.
Okay.
He's got like a little scatter on his back.
Okay. But yeah, so Legendary Flame Lord is a fire spellcaster, level 7, 2400 attack, 2k defense. Once again, by the way, this is a ritual level 7, so I don't know why his stats suck. This card can only be ritual summoned by Incandescent Ordeal, and it also reiterates that you have to tribute monsters whose level equals 7 or more to summon him, even though the ritual spell also already says that.
At least it's 7 or more, not exactly 7. Because
yes.
that was a time in early rituals that sucked ass.
Yeah. Each time your opponent activates a spell card, put a spell counter on this card, remove 3 spell counters from this card, destroy all monsters in the field except this one.
I mean, a decent effect. Like, I feel like immediately this card had to have happened around the same time frame as Demise, where it was just a way easier way to do it. But
yeah. Like, honestly, I think this guy hasn't been thought of in forever because he's unfortunately got that version of the text where it says only with his ritual spell, and it is only when your opponent activates a spell card. It's the kind of thing where, like, during certain phases of the game, when your opponent's activating spell cards that aren't going to, like, end the whole game, that's okay. Nowadays, it's like, it's not a quick effect, so, you know, you gotta, I mean, it's from, like, 05, so of course it's not a quick effect, but you know what I mean.
Oh, he's from 03.
Oh, actually, yeah, 03, the original printing of Dark Crisis. So yeah, like he's
03,
he's old school.
And Demise was 06. So yeah, like a few years later, this card would be
super power
immediately like power crept pretty handedly.
But like if Konami wanted to remember that these like fire type red spell counter magicians existed, that could be cool. But for now, this guy is stuck in the same ritual hell with all those guys who can only be special summoned with their exact ritual spell. So now we're going to talk about a very funny guy. Again, you may not realize that this is a spell counter spellcaster card, but I want everybody to behold another him, the one and only Hannibal Necromancer.
Ugh.
It's him. He is here.
Huh.
And yes, I'm not joshing you. This guy is a spellcaster. And for once, Upper Deck didn't fuck with this guy's name at all. He's just Hannibal Necromancer in Japanese.
You know, unfortunately, I do remember this card coming up as a spell counter card at some point.
Yeah.
I don't remember why. I remember being jump scared by this card at some point.
Well, I'll just say his effect really quick. If he's normal summoned, put a spell counter on him. You can remove a spell counter to pop a face-up trap. So he is Crappier Breaker. Because he doesn't get the attack boost either. But he's a guy. He is certainly a man.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. He's a 2003 card. I guess was just never printed until 2008 everywhere else for some reason.
Yeah, he got tucked into the Phantom Darkness Special Edition and the Command set because, I don't know. I guess we just decided... Oh, no, I see. He was a promo card...
Or Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters International Worldwide Edition Game Guide.
So he was a promo card in Japanese as an ultra rare, mind you. And he was in the structure deck in 2008. So like that was a reprint for him in the OCG. So it was like the first time they had a chance to print him in the TCG. I guess.
So he sucked on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I think considering this was again like right around the time that Breaker got put back to 3, I think he may have been intended as like a funny like alternate, that was more balanced. He's been reprinted like twice for Speed Duels for some ungodly reason. Probably because Speed Duel also
I think that's where I've seen him before in Speed Duel, yeah. That tracks.
He was a guy that was in, Nightmare Troubadour, which I think is one of the retro games. Actually, no, that's a DS game, so maybe not one of the ones you can play.
Nightmare
in the retro
Troubadour.
collection. The DS game, yeah, from 05. And I think he was in a couple.
Nightmare Troubadour was. Nightmare Troubadour. It was just Duel Monsters.
Yes. He's also in Reshef and Sacred Cards. So like he was in some video games. So expect this guy to show up as either a Memento or a Chimera Fusion supporter guy someday, I guess. This guy should be an illusion monster. I'm not sure this guy is real. But he's a dark spellcaster, level 4, 1400, 1800, and he pops a face of spell trap.
My favorite part of his card art is how he appears to be just contorting his body so he can fit his claws in frame.
Look at my claws! I'm Hannibal Necromancer. Actually, no. He should speak like Hannibal from the fucking movies. Hello, Clarice. I'm Hannibal Necromancer. I would like to serve you a trap card with a nice Chianti.
The longer I'm getting the Cross Crusader effect of this guy. Like the longer I look at this guy, the more I hate him.
Well, let's move on to another card that we don't need to look at. We're gonna look at actually a normal woman. This is Magical Exemplar. Whose name in the OCG is Magical Conductor. I don't know why we switched it to Exemplar. Again, upper deck. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure this is a card you've probably seen in the background somewhere. Not sure what's going on with her fashion sense. She's,
This is definitely like they were figuring. This feels like a card that should have been a prophecy card that just sort of missed the boat. Because this vibes with if you see the rest of the prophecy archetype, this kind of vibes with that style.
I would not be surprised because prophecy / spellbook are interlinked with Endymion if this chick isn't a prophecy card later with a redrawn art, in a couple of years. Originally released in Light of Destruction, was reprinted for the structure deck. She's just a lady. I mean, I like her vibe. She's got a good color scheme. Once again, I like the Photoshop filter background.
So there's not much to say about her design. She looks fine. Again, just the Endymion archetype in 15 quotation marks is we hit so many different vibes of styles because it's just spell counter go burr is Endymion. So we're gonna get cards like this that they just sideswipe us in the design. Same as Hannibal. It's just here to be spell counter support.
So Exemplar is an Earth spellcaster. Kind of assembling our Captain Planet team here. She's level 4. She's 1700, 1400. So decent stats for a level 4 in 2008 when you have effects as well. Each time a spell card is activated, put 2 spell counters on this card when that resolves. Once per turn, remove any number of spell counters from this card. Special summon a spellcaster monster from your hand or graveyard whose level is equal to the number of counters you removed.
Well, hey, I think all we need is fire and water, and we can make Dark Doriado into Endymion work.
I mean, you've got Dark Red Enchanter and Blast Magician if you really need fires.
Oh, I meant water and wind. I don't know why it's fire.
Well, there's definitely winds later, and I think there may be waters. That may be in like I said, in our hypothetical part 2. Because I think those might not show up until the Pendulum era, but they exist, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, Exemplar is another card that I think I've actually seen in lists before, because for a card that came out in 2008, a 1700 monster who gets 2 spell counters every time you get a spell, and is just a special summon. That's if you can get 2 spell counters, or 2 spell effects off. That's 4 counters. That's a level 4 summoned. You can do 3 spells. That's a level 6 summoned. Or a 5. You don't have to remove all of them. You can remove odd numbers. So, this is the kind of card that if you can get out early in your turn and just start farming spells, which a lot of spell counter decks were very good about, you can get a lot of stuff out. And I do believe that I think Royal Magical Library is either a 1 or 2, or is it a 4? I think it's the XC's version that's like a 1 or 2. But even so,
what
Royal Magical Library, is that a 4?
Magical Library is a 4.
Yeah, so that's a little harder to get out. But instead of turboing out a draw engine, you turbo out a summon engine. Exemplar's reasonable. And keep in mind, still back in the day, you would be running stuff that would keep your cards alive. This structure deck was printed with Magical Cylinder, for instance. So, like, Battle Tricks exists. So, this is a decent card for the time. I wouldn't be surprised if you couldn't make this work in, like, modern decks, because, like, if you could just special summon her out and you just activate spell cards, that's just more extension, baby. And from graveyard. Like, this still has the bones of being a decent Yu-Gi-Oh card.
I mean, honestly, that just kind of feels like par for the course with a lot of Endymion cards or spell counter cards. Like,
Yes.
there is definitely something in the works for spell counters in the early stages.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. Like, it isn't really until like what I assume will be our second half next week where things start to click together and like, oh god, we've hit a critical mass of spell counter bullshit.
Yeah. And our next one is another card that's like a limited format progression series type champion. It's Magical Marionette.
Ooh, this little asshole.
Yeah. I did not realize quite
Well,
how
they're
oversized those
tribute, right?
knives are. I love them. I love that this
They're more
weird
like
puppet
dirks.
has such big fighting knives, big stabbies. And look at how this guy definitely hangs out with Endymion. Look how extra this motherfucker is back there.
Got a spell orb and an eye, and like,
Like,
yeah,
like
it's
you can't see any of the Marionetter aside from his cowl, gloves, and face / mask.
well, it's because
But you can picture the rest of this guy as like in the style a la our oh my god, what's his fucking name? The evil magician guy that Sam Riegel voices.
Arcana.
Oh yeah, it was Pandora
evil.
in the Yoshi. That's how I was getting
Yeah.
confused. Arcana, Pandora.
So like, yeah, no. But no, yes, he's definitely like that. And I like that he's got his little doll guy with his creepy long arms, and it's got a spell counter in there.
It's how he's channeling his energy through it.
He's also like semi-corporeal because his bottom half is literally hidden by another Photoshop filter, which is not the background. But I like
Honestly though, I think it really works for the aesthetic happening with this fucko.
this guy
there's-
is a guy, and he is here to spook you. And honestly, again, not a unheard of card. So Magical Marionette is a dark spellcaster level 5, 2,000 attack, 1,000 defense. So like okay-ish stats for the time for a 5. But every time a spell card is activated, you put a spell counter on it. You gain 200 attack for each spell counter. You can also remove 2 spell counters to target any monster on the field and destroy it.
I will just say like one more point on his design.
Yeah.
This is definitely a master class in simplicity building a good design.
Yeah.
Because like I said, like what we assume is like 80% of his design is covered up in a filter, but that covering up allows this little puppet to take center stage, and you can then kind of extrapolate and imagine what this guy might look like, and it works. It works very well.
Yeah, it flows very well. All right, kids. I need everybody to brace yourselves. We're about to see an ugly
Oh,
motherfucker
God.
of a card.
oh, boy.
This is Magical Plant Mandragola.
Oh.
That's like the old Diablo shit.
Why do they have teeth?
Because they're magical plants, I guess.
I have
Hey,
so many
chat.
things to say
Hey.
that I cannot say.
Hey, guess what? This isn't a plant. This is a spellcaster.
Yeah, it's some weird person transposed himself into a plant.
I think it's just a plant that knows how to cast spells. I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh was that distinct back in the day. But no,
very
this
much
guy
I
fucking...
dislike the orientation. I dislike the teeth. I dislike the moist drool dripping between the teeth. It gives
Even the
many
color selection here is ugly. I do not like it. We've got this, like, goopy maroon. We've got piss yellow. We've got an acid green aura on, like, indigo and purple. It's just... Basically, this is a card that was designed by a psychopath in the graphic design team who wants you to look at this card and go, huh,
Yeah, this.
Which, hey, this is a flip monster, so I think that's intentional. I think you're supposed to flip this up, realize this is the card you attacked, and go, ha!
Like, you're pulling the guy over, but it's like, what the fuck is that?
It's Magical Plant Madrigola, baby. This is a Dark Spellcaster level 2. It's 500 attack, 200 defense. Its flip effect is place one spell counter on each face-up card on the field you can put a spell counter on.
Oh my god, you can... He's a spellcaster, so you can get a Apprentice Magician with it.
Yeah,
you
no, this card combos with Apprentice, and, like, it spreads spell counters. Like, it's not terrible. It's just, it's a flip guy, so, like, it's a little slow. It's weird. Apparently it made the cut for speed duels. Don't ask me about that one. But, yeah, this is just...
I mean, that probably tracks in just, like, there was probably just Flip Turbo that was just... It was just a bunch of flip guy.
Yeah. And our last monster from back in the day, we're going to talk about some of the spell counter spells of the time. But also to remind everybody that these guys were, or at least one of these guys was around for a while. It's Mythical Beast Cerberus. I don't know why exactly we went with Mythical Beast, but I think it's because that was kind of how they were translated, that, or they didn't want to play the Magic card game because the name in the OCG is just Magic Beasto Kerberusu, so technically pronounced Kerberus as well. So yeah, but this is Mythic Beast Kerberus, and these guys have been around that long. And all of them do have this kind of weird effect where, like, they do weird things with heads and faces. So we've got, like, one majestic dog head, and we got one angry-ass dog head.
You know, I'm kind of bothered by the fact that it's Kerberos, but it has two heads.
Yeah, no, I don't see a third head.
They
I'm
could
not
have
sure what
called
we're
it
going
Orthos.
for here.
That would have worked.
They probably should have called it Orthos, but they didn't. I think it's because Kerberos is more famous, but it's weird. But yeah, this, you're going to see a lot more Mythic Beasts as a support engine for Endymion and Pendulum spellcasters later. But Kerberos was the first one.
Huh.
I'm sorry.
I looked in the trivia, and it said it is just the heads of Jackal and Cerberus from the Mythical Beast archetype that happens later. So yeah. I guess this is supposed to be a Chimera, not a Cerberus. But who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, despite the cover lying about him, I think he still looks cool.
Yeah, he's not the worst looking guy for sure.
Did we already say what he discussed? Like, I got just so sideswiped by this design that I lost track of what he does.
No, we have not mentioned that yet. I'm also double checking some stuff because there's a few. I forgot that there's a couple of funny lore cards upcoming.
I read the first half of this card and went, oh, it's pretty good. For the second half, I'm like, oh, this is shit.
Yeah, so Cerberus is also a spellcaster, by the way. All of the mythical beasts are spellcasters, despite being very beasty. Level 4, 14/14. Each time a spell card is activated, put a spell counter on it. Gains 500 attack for each spell counter at the end of the battle phase. If this card battled, remove all spell counters. So, yeah, it's bad. This is one of those cases where, like, I do not know why they decided to make this a thing, but I'm glad they did, because if this was the entire legacy of the mythical beast, this card's kind of bad. Like, I know you can turbo spell counters.
I'm being pulled away.
All right. Good day, X. We'll see you next time for more.
Well, the other thing is, like, your opponent can out this guy.
Yeah. It's really easy.
If it was attacked, I think it would be okay. But it's when damage calculation is conducted, which means if this card battles ever, it goes back down to 1400, which can then be outed pretty candidly.
Yeah. No, it's not that great. So we're going to run through some old-ass spell traps now, because that was the bulk of it. And so you can see, by the way, even with the structure deck, we didn't quite know what we were doing yet. And some more stuff would percolate, like, around or after the structure deck in the Synchro era proper. Because technically the structure deck was released in the Synchro era, but it didn't actually have any, like, Synchro-type cards in it. But they tried a little harder, but it didn't come together. But there are a few old-school cards to talk about. First, Exhausting Spell. Very funny. This is one of our couple of anti-supports we're going to talk about, because Konami decided we need
This
counterplay
card-
for spell cards, spell counters.
Doesn't this card just say spell counters go by?
Yes,
right?
this is a normal trap that says remove all spell counters on the field. And I think, though, the art is very funny, which is also why I wanted to pull it up, because it's just a bog standard Yu-Gi-Oh wizard who's just, like, getting his ass rocked by something right now.
Like, it looks like he's like his skin tone is shifting down his body, or like it's like travel. I can't tell if it's yeah. You know, I'm fine with cards like these because in the same vein of early Yu-Gi-Oh, there's like there was a spell card that just reads destroy all blank type monsters for every typing at the time like war exterminate like warrior extermination. The witch try. I don't know what all of them are called off the top of my head, but like there was just like a
witch.
Last day, like
Eradicating
destroy
aerosol
all
spray.
spellcasters, destroy all warriors, destroy all insects. So it's like it makes sense, especially for early Yu-Gi to be like make a card to counter spell counter strategy, so people can play it. You know.
Now we're gonna pull up another very funny one that is part of the Wombo combo. This is Megaton Magical Cannon, and Dimian has a gun.
Not just a gun, a rail gun.
A big fucking gun. So yeah, this is just a weird magic gun with a spell counter powering it. This card says, by the way, this is a normal spell that says remove 10 spell counters from the field, destroy all cards your opponent controls.
The best part of this card is that, like, when you glance at it, you can say, okay, it's like this is like some kind of like magical artifact, but no, there are power cores sticking out of it.
There's tubes and pumps, and I don't know what's going on with like the bottom because it looks like that should be a brace, but it's like broken. So like, is that how you're supposed to aim it? I don't know.
I think this is very much just a. I don't want to say generic, but it's definitely become a stereotype kind of thing in storylines of your Atlantis, your ancient civilization that was super technologically advanced, far beyond what we are at now. Like that's what it feels like.
But yeah. But honestly, as a concept, just giving spell counter decks a board wipe. You do need 10 counters, but like that's not impossible, especially because you'll start generating counters again after you resolve this spell.
10 counters sounds insane until you actually kind of think about the idea of, well, realistically, every card I play can put spell counters on it, and if I even have like 2 or 3 cards that get spell counters when I play spell cards, that like I could easily hit 10.
Especially because remember, this card came out in 03. This was in Magician's Force, so I'm pretty sure you could still play Pot of Greed. You could play Graceful Charity and shit. Like, you could still access your power spells. So, like, generating enough card advantage to be able to set this up was not impossible. I think it was still a little too slow for some decks to, like, make it work when you can just play, you know, Raigeki and Darkhole. But, like, conceptually, not awful. Today, probably it's still a little too slow and it's still a little too telegraphed, but still very funny.
10 counters, like, I think 10 counters is the perfect amount that sounds feasible to get people to want to build around it, but because like I think if you go any higher, it's like, well, this card just sucks.
Yeah. We'll skip that because that's technically a Buster Blader card. We have not yet done.
The
Miracle Restoring was what I.
Yeah. I was trying to think. I could picture the card in my head.
Yeah, it's a neat looking card, but it really is just it's got like Buster Blader silhouette, so I think it's a Blader support. This is a card we probably should have pulled up a little earlier just for the graphic, but this is Pitch Black Power Stone, which I appreciate is just.
It's DM or Buster Blader. We can just it's removes 2 spell counters, summon Dark DM or Blader from your.
I'm pretty sure that was an anime card first from probably like the Orichalcos arc when Yugi or Atem was on, spell counters. But it's still a decent card, and like I said, we'll probably look at the card art when we actually talk about Buster Blader.
It does not have an appearance. It does not have an appearances tab, so I don't think it was ever in the anime.
Then I guess Konami just decided to make it that way. This is the thing, though, like I said, because Yugi did use Breaker in the anime, there are a couple of spell counter cards that are, like, oddly trying to give Yugi deck synergy. And it's very funny that they have completely dropped that in favor of integrating those cards into Endymion. And
Yeah,
there are a
I
couple of
think
spell counter cards from like the Pendulum era we're gonna skip because they're actually BLS cards.
I want to say it was just one of those eras of, well, spell counters use spellcasters, and that's Yugi's whole gimmick. So let's build spell counters around just general spellcaster support.
This is a card we probably should have looked at for the art earlier, but it is a trap, so we talked about it later. This is Pitch Black Power Stone.
Is the spell, yeah. If I'm sure we mentioned it before. This is the spell counter.
Yes.
This is what the spell counter is.
Yeah, the spell counter represents these stones which have the power. You see this stone everywhere. You saw it in Megaton Magical Cannon. You see it all over the place. A really good orb. I'd love to ponder it. But this is a continuous trap card that is very simple. You activate this card by placing 3 spell counters on it. Once per turn, during your turn, target another card on the field that you can put a spell counter on. You move 1 spell counter from Power Stone, move it to that card. When the last spell counter is removed from this card, destroy it. Just a way to bank spell counters and move them where you need to move them. It's slow, but like we said, with because this came out also in Magician's Force. So this trap card right here is 3 of the counters you need to activate Megaton. Just as a bank. So, like, back in the day when you're playing slower formats, like in 03, 04, etc., if you were playing a spell counter turbo deck, this is perfectly fine. It's just... It is a bank for spell counters you can move around. One more card that we've mentioned before that is also quintessential to this archetype, and also has decent art, and it did come out a little later. Yeah, this was first printed in the structure deck, but it's Spell Power Grasp. I believe this is the thumbnail. It's just Endymion's juicing up his spell counter. Looks pretty sick, but that's what it is.
And I went into this card and passing this card just put spell.
Yeah.
If a card has spell counters on it, put another spell counter on it.
It does target. It is a hard once per turn, but that's it. It's a normal spell that puts a spell counter. And because it's a spell card, that means you're probably generating at least 2 spell counters. I'm pretty sure you still play Power Grasp in Endymion to this day. Like, yeah, I'm not sure if it's a 3 of, but it's just such a quintessential card to just generate advantage.
It's just good.
Yeah.
It's just good.
A card that you're probably not playing in Endymion these days, for some ungodly reason, Tower of Babel.
Oh yeah, we had to get a religion reference in. I've never seen this card.
Yeah, no, it's this one I had to include because it is the most nothing of card art ever. It's a weird Babel Tower.
This is just like clip art. Like legitimately, this is just clip art. Like, you can show me this. Saying it was Tower of Babel, I can picture the card in my head playing it as like a dumbass 6-year-old. But just showing me this card art out of context, could not tell you it was a Yu-Gi-Oh card because there's nothing screaming Yu-Gi-Oh at me about what this is.
And also, I have absolutely no idea what the why the fuck this card exists, but it does. This is a continuous trap that says each time a spell card is activated, put a spell counter on this card when it resolves. If the 4th spell counter is placed on this card, destroy it. If you do, the player who activated that spell card takes 3,000 damage. So this is another, like, weird, maybe, like, counterplay spell, but also is kind of a floodgate, because, like, if you're playing spell counters and you flip this and you, like, activated some more, you could probably do some stuff. I should double check what year this came out. Okay, so
also just as like a random aside, because I've been looking in the background like of speed duels.
Yeah.
I've found like the genesis of like all spell counter cards in Speed Duel. It is the Yugi deck, like Skilled White, Skilled Black, Blast Magician, Breaker, Apprentice, Old Vindictive, and like Spell Power Grasp, like everything in even Pitch Black Power Stone, like it's all in Yugi's deck. Arcana has a deck too, and I just want to go down the cards in his deck, like just a handful of them real quick.
Sure, run them for me.
We have Chao Sai the Ghost Stopper, Shaolin the Prophet, Anarchist Monk Ranshin, Meiko Master of Barriers, and Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. He's just got all like the occult Eastern like exorcist guys.
So wait, in Speed Duels, Arcana is not a dark magician like one of those Victorian occultists obsessed with Egypt. He's a weeb?
Huh?
I said he's a weeb? I guess it, there's Orientalism in there as well. But like, he's just got all the weird Eastern occult guys.
Like the thing is, he still has Dark Magician and Dark Magic Curtain, like he still has like the Dark Magician cards too. His deck is just filled with all of like the Eastern occult guys too for no reason.
Because they gave Yu-Gi-Oh the other shit.
Guard.
This is a card that I did have in my list but forgot to put earlier. But this is also from Magician's Force. This is the card that is just called Anti-Spell.
Which is remove 2 spell counters, counter trap.
Yeah, it's for 2003. This is an archetypal negate. It only negates a spell card, but those are pretty nasty, and it only costs 2 spell counters.
Like in 2003, there were barely any trap cards to begin with, too. Like,
yeah.
That's the thing.
No, I mean, and it's a counter as well, so like I think honestly, like it's really interesting to see it come up. And some people did want to say, I'm kind of surprised they didn't reprint this for the structure deck, but it was a common a couple of times before, so I don't think you needed it. But, like, absolutely, like, definitely could have been a killer card for probably the first 10-ish years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously, being only a spell negate for 2 counters is probably not worth playing now, even if you generate a shitload of counters, but still. Alright, so let's talk about the weird Synchro era of Endymion, and even a little into the Xyz era.
I do know there is one other spell counter card that that everyone should be aware of because it's an FTK bastard.
Yeah. And we'll get there
especially
eventually.
In the Synchro era.
But first, from 2010, the Absolute Power Force, Alchemist of Black Spells. Interesting, by the way. This is, I think, one of the first times we actually like wanted to straight up say like black spells or black magic. We were dodging that one for a lot of years.
Yeah, I mean, again, the era of the early 2000s, where I mean, again, to kind of bring us back around to wrestling, everyone knows the Undertaker. He's the iconic guy. This was during the time where he was strapping people to crosses and crucifying them after he beat them with him and his dark ministry. So, you know, the Satanic Panic was still thriving in the early 2000s.
Actually, that reminds me. If you haven't seen it, I've got to show you a couple of videos of some people doing some VTuber edits of WWE games, but somebody did like a YouTube where they curated it, but it's very funny because they treat Calliope Mori as the Undertaker. Like, they play the gong, she just appears behind people, takes them out,
that's right,
vanishes. It's a very funny couple of YouTube videos. I'll throw them up in Fail Portrayal later. But yeah, this is the Alchemist of Black Spells. By the way, Wind Spellcaster. It's him. He's the Wind. I don't know why he's the Wind. I'm also pretty sure this is probably Endymion in a funny hat. Because he's like blue.
This looks like Armored Exe because he has the
He does have kind of the same
little,
silhouette.
like,
It's true.
Cowl reminded me of him a bit.
Yeah. Armored Exe was a rock, so I don't know if that was like a set of armor, but yeah, this guy just hangs out in Endymion's lab and is going to be involved in some cards we're going to see in the Spell Trap segment of this before we probably end the stream. But he's got a book with the Spell Power symbol on it. He's got it tattooed on his hand. He's got the Black Power Stone. That is what it is, you know. So I think he's fairly straightforward in terms of design.
Yeah, I mean, like he's spellcaster man look like I think he's mostly saved by like the angle and perspective. It's just giving him a good dynamic pose here.
Yeah,
he just looks nice.
And I think it keeps the design language of earlier cards in this ethos, but is, updated a little. I think he's even got the weird pizza slice like power lines behind him, but we're from a different angle, so they look different.
Yeah.
So this is like I said, a wind spellcaster. He's level 4. He's 1200, 1800. Once per turn, target a face-up card you control that can place a spell counter on. Change this attack position card to defense position. Put a spell counter on that target. Honestly, all pluses because this guy has a good defense and a bad offense. So you just normal summon him or special summon him in attack. Put him defense. Put a counter.
His worst defense is probably just being a little too slow at the time of release, but still a solid effect across the board.
Yeah. So let's see. We already talked about Crusader. Not the only, by the way, weird. The curse of the Gemini monster has hit many archetypes. It hit spell counters. It's hit red eyes. It's gone many places, many things. But we have another one. We're skipping Crusader because we already looked at him and he sucks. Our next card is Dark Valkyria, because Valkyria was a card that Yugi used a couple of times, Magician's Valkyrie, etc.
Oh, this
Dark Valkyrie.
I don't like this. I just like it's not bad art. It's competently drawn. I feel like I should like it, but I look at this and I'm just like, nah, it's not doing it for me. You know what? I looked at it more. I realized it. She has 3 different colored Konami orbs. That's where it's losing.
Yeah, she's got multiple colors of orbs, and she's got an interesting color scheme where she's wearing like a purple. Let me actually double check. Nope, no, this is the original card art. No censorship. So in Japanese, she's wearing a purple body stocking and also has purple skin. She's got her blue armor. She's got black wings, and also she's got kind of like silver hair. The colors are kind of weird.
She's got the Marissa hairstyle.
Her pose is, there's something about the way her waist hip ratio works that's throwing me off here. I'm not sure what it is, but something looks wrong. She's just a little too noodly. I'm not sure what it is, but I agree. I don't think I quite like this.
I'm looking at this more like it feels like that top little belt was supposed to be where the waistband started, but then they drew a second one, so her abdomen just is way too long.
Yeah. So Dark Valkyrie is a Dark Fairy Gemini level 4. Once again, showing you Konami can decide to fuck shit up if they want. She's got 1800 attack, 1050 defense. She's a Gemini, so she's treated as a normal. You can normal summon her. Her effect is, once while this card's face up on the field, place a spell counter on it. This card gains 300 attack with a spell counter on it.
She is just Duname's Dark Witch, but
weird.
But evil.
You can also remove a spell counter from this card, target a monster, destroy it. So, again, don't know what the fuck they were smoking with Geminis, where her Gemini effect is once while face up, put a spell counter, gains 300 attack, and can also remove it to pop.
Okay. I'm throwing this in Fail Portrayal because this is it's definitely themed off Duname's. Yeah. Like the tricolor Konami orbs, the armor, the look, it's all there. And she was a light fairy and was called Dunamis Valkyria in the OCG. So is 100% just a pairing that was lost in translation.
Because Upper Deck is drunk. They can't translate Valkyria. Why not? Hold on. Discord, are you okay? I keep hitting copy image and it is not copying. I guess it just won't let me grab it. I'm not going to open a separate tab. Y'all can look up Duname's Dark Witch. Duname's is, I think, a card that's better than this card because she's a normal monster that's a light fairy with 1800 attack.
Yeah. Funny enough, Duname's did get edited where they had to pull her breastplate down to cover her boobs because she was showing under boob.
Well, that happens a couple of times. All right. Next up, Frequency Magician.
Oh, this little dude. I completely forgot he was a spell counter guy.
Yeah. I think even the trivia page suggests it. This guy was only printed ever in the starter deck for 5Ds. So, we're kicking off the 5Ds era. But this guy feels like he's supposed to be a counterpart to Apprentice Magician because he's got a very similar stat line and vibe. And he is light. But I like this weird little guy. Like, I don't know what he's doing, but considering, like, there's cards upcoming, like Endymion's Lab, we already had the Megaton Magical Cannon. This kind of, like, Magitech thing, he's wearing his fucking Sam Fisher goggles.
He's wearing an eraser for a helmet.
Yes. I do not like his expression with those goggles because I'm very curious what he's going to see or what he's going to vibrate.
Yeah, like, there's... Like, something about this design, it's jumped the shark in a good way. Where like, nah, look at this weird little guy. Like,
look at this dude.
Look at this weirdo. Like,
Yeah.
from the neck up and elbows up, he's incredible, and everything else is like, what's going on? Like what's like the gauntlets and neck up are incredible, and everything else just feels almost generic, but it stands out because of despite it. It's bizarre.
Yeah. But this guy was actually, I'm pretty sure, kind of important back in the day. He's a light spellcaster Shuna. Level 2, 800 attack, 400 defense. When he's normal summoned, put a spell counter on him. You can remove a spell counter from him to have a 1 face-up monster you control gain 500 attack until the end phase. A pretty boring effect, but he is a spell counter compatible monster who is a tuner. And that will be important.
I'm incredibly confused by the Yu-Gi-Oh fandom site where his name in Japanese was Magical Fishalist.
Yeah, I do not understand. Magicaru Fisharisto.
I've looked up that word. It didn't sound real. I got facialist, so I don't think this is a real word.
Yeah, I think they just decided to put some sounds together in the OCG.
Yeah.
Hence why Frequency Magician.
Yeah, which I mean, it looks like every other it looks like every other like region went with Frequency as well. So it has. I assume it's some lost in translation thing that just is not referenced to, because it was a card released once and never again.
Okay. Sorry, this next card got away from my list a little. I'm not sure why, but we will pull it up now. Just wondering where the fuck this cat went. It's Magic Cat. Meow. Magic Cat.
Oh, I like this. I like this guy. He's
cat.
cute. A good pal to take monster hunting with.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the vibe he's got. He looks like that.
You've captured the monster, meow.
But yeah, no, that's just what it's a cat with a staff. It's a magic cat.
I want to picture this thing pulling out the fucking, what is it, the little fucking tank they can get in Monster Hunter.
And
yeah, I mean,
he's
like,
just a,
My
just
ultimate
a guy.
spell. Gun.
There's not too much to talk about Magic Cat. It's a cute looking cat that's slightly anthropomorphized, but not just enough.
And its name in Japanese is just Magicato. Just Magic Cat. It's a light spellcaster level 2, 600 attack, 500 defense. If this card's sent to the graveyard for a synchro summon of a spellcaster type synchro monster, return a spell card from your graveyard to the top of your deck. Clearly trying to set up for magical spell counter stuff. And then the other one that came out around this time, it was about a year later, but was also still in this block. Actually, I'll just put them side by side. It's Magic Dog.
Oh. All right. The dog feels a bit
More anthro?
Yeah.
Dog's a little weird, yes.
Like with the cat, it just looks like a cat that's just kind of like sitting up.
Yeah.
The dog is standing up, which I don't really like. I don't know why.
Magic Dog does
Yeah.
look more uncomfortable somehow.
Looks like he's casting a healing spell on himself to be like, my bones.
But Magic
I
Dog
can't
is
stand up like this.
basically in the same vibe. This is a light spellcaster level 4, 1700, 100. If it's sent to the graveyard to synchro summon a spellcaster type monster, add a field spell card from your graveyard to your hand. So recycles a field spell. And I may be wondering, those weren't directly spellcounter related. Well, guess what? They're gonna appear in card arts related to Spellcaster Synchro Monsters, which we are gonna talk about, and also related to the Alchemist of Black Spells. So those guys are around. Next up, we have a card that is actually a little later than I thought, but is still very solid. But that I feel like I've used a lot in like side video games and stuff. It's Maiden of Macabre.
Oh yeah,
Yay!
she definitely had some time in our progression series too. I feel like.
I mean, she was a rare in Duelist Genesis as a one. I feel kind of sad because she's got a great pun in the OCGE that just in 2009, I don't think they could have counted on the audience of Yu-Gi-Oh to get. Her name in the OCG is just Gay Shadow, as in Geisha Shadow.
Gay Shadow.
Yeah, Gay Shadow. But I obviously understand, one, there would be jokes there, but also two, like, would your broader Yu-Gi-Oh audience get Geisha? Maiden of Macabre works. It's got alliterative. But yeah, no, she's looking pretty great. Very elaborate hair. You may notice there is a little insert in her kimono to cover up anything remotely resembling cleavage that is added. The fact that she's got, like 4 skull-shaped things on her scythe, that's not a problem. Though I don't even think that this card art in the original OCG is even that busty.
I doubt it is. It was probably just. It was just like cover up anything. Cover up anything that can.
Yeah, there's not really a cleavage line, but it is definitely like her kimono is low cut enough that like you definitely are like, oh, that's that area. It's a great kimono though. Like I love the multiple layers and patterns. Really good looking card. But yeah, this is a card that we saw a little bit of.
Just, I mean, like, it just looks nice, Again, like we're just getting some cards that look nice.
And I have no idea why they decided to make this a spell counter card, but this actually is. She's a Dark Spellcaster, level 4, 1700 attack, 0 defense. But if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, put a spell counter on it. It gains 200 attack for each spell counter on it. So, if you can get one cheap shot in, she's a 1900, and if you can keep her around or use cards like Grasp, etc., she can quickly become quite large.
Yeah, I want to say this was definitely like I don't want to say early, but like this is one of those cards in Duel Links that it became a problem just because of how slow the game was. Like especially like this card was in I forget, like it was like second year ish. Like this card drops and you're like, oh okay, this card's up.
And I want to say that I think there were some there were even some like I forget what they were called, but like Konami has had Yu-Gi-Oh simulators on phones for a long time. There were like some pre-Duel Links like single-player Yu-Gi-Oh games. I think I picked up Maiden in some of those. Like, I don't even remember what they were called. They're shut down now. But like, just as like, if you're playing limited formats, she's a 1700 beater who gets bigger. That's pretty decent. But now we're going to journey to the extra deck. For our first one, alphabetically, because like I said, we decided that spell counters are a synchro thing now. First, Arcanite Magician.
Oh, I didn't even notice his face. Oh.
He's got a little face under there, yeah. The shadows are a little harsh.
Boy, I sure hope we don't find out what he's wearing under that robe.
Yeah. R.I.P. And actually, there is a... Arcanite's not a archetype, but isn't there a guy who's, like, looking after his armor? I don't remember what that card's called.
Well, no, there's the other synchro, isn't there? Like,
yeah,
the
no,
Arcanite,
there's it's either his assault mode or his fusion mode, both of which will be...
It's assault mode, I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
but, the one thing that I'm bothered by, how the hell did he pull his hood up?
Magic.
Like,
I don't know, Magic Man. But yeah, the robe is like Sorry, I'm yawning. The robe is like vacuum sucked onto his armor, which we can see he's wearing like a classic Dark Magician or Endymion style armor under there. I don't fucking know how he got it on. It's got to be like the most elastic material in the universe to get over those shoulders and head.
Like, honestly, if we had just gotten Assault Mode Arcanite Magician, which like I'm not gonna bury the lead. We see what armor looks like. It looks fine. It's the robe that kills it for me. Because you look at this robe and you stop thinking about how he looks and more how the hell does that robe? How the hell does this robe function?
Yeah, how did he do it? I don't know. But Arcanite is a light spellcaster, level 7 synchro. He's got 400 attack and 1800 defense, so his stats are shit. He also is not completely generic. He requires non-tuner spellcasters to summon.
Which was frequency, I think, at the time.
If this card is synchro summoned, place 2 spell counters on it. This card gains 1,000 attack for each spell counter. So once again, I feel like there was a weirdness with like Extra Deck and other similar like guys to like make level 7s that couldn't be as strong as the Dark Magician, even though Endymion is stronger than the Dark Magician. But you can remove a spell counter from this card, target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. So he is pop anything, or he's just a 2400 guy. If you can put more spell counters on him, he can be an even bigger guy. But like, not terrible. I think our primary problem was that this guy was like, this guy was a super in Crimson Crisis that was like really hard to come by, and he does not get reprinted a lot, which is sad because he's like part of some wombo combos.
Yeah, as we'll see in, I assume, 5 seconds.
Yeah, first, we're going to look at his Assault Mode, which, considering that most Assault Modes look like gross assaults upon your senses, this guy may have the most reasonable Assault Mode.
He just takes off the hood, he takes off the robe, and you're like, okay, like...
Hey, he takes off his
right.
white cloak to reveal he is, in fact, Remy Tim.
God, he is orange and purple.
Which would have been a pretty prescient joke because this card came out in 2009. But yeah, no. I mean, honestly, like, it's just Arcanite Magician with his cloak off, and like we said before, he looks way better.
Look how much
The shoulder pads. The shoulder pads are a bit much, I will say still, but I like the vibe. I like what we're doing here.
Yeah.
He looks like a stiff breeze could snap his limbs.
I mean, also true.
I mean, yeah, but a lot of the classic Yu-Gi-Oh magicians are noodly boys. Like Dark Magician is also skinny as hell.
I mean, like we were talking about it with Crusader and Endymion earlier. Like, like for being a guy with 1900 attack, he's lanky as hell.
Yeah. So Assault Mode Arcanite is up to level 9. He's still a light spellcaster. He's 900 attack, 2300 defense. You know, keeping up with like I think it's usually like 500 buff both ways. Can't be normal summoned or set. Can't be special summoned except with Assault Mode activated. When this card is special summoned, put 2 spell counters. Gains 1,000, so it becomes 29, which is pretty good for an Assault Mode. You can remove 2 spell counters. Destroy all cards your opponent controls. When this card is destroyed, special summon Arcanite Magician from your graveyard. So it floats back into the original. And it is a board wipe on summon. Probably not worth going out of your way to run, unlike Stardust Assault Mode, who, like, if you were running Dragoonity back in the day, running the Assault Mode package to convert Stardust into Stardust Assault Mode, I mean, I'm going to be honest to you, depending on the limited format, Stardust Assault Mode carries to this day. I have cheesed people in Master Duel events with Dragoonity Turbo Stardust Assault. Like... Arcanite's not as good, but still a very reasonable effect to make a guy who is 29 or could be a board wipe. So
well, also to think of like the Endymion's nuke, the remove 10 counters. I've already forgotten what it's called.
Megaton
Spell empowering cannon. Yeah, Mega. Like, seeing us go from, like, remove 10 counters, destroy everything, to remove 2. Like, granted it needs setup, but, like,
yeah,
remove 2.
It needs you to synchro summon a guy and then activate a trap to get that guy. But, yeah. Our next one is, we're not going to talk about the fusion form just yet because that guy's way down in S. We got one more in the middle here. It's Explosive Magician. Another one of those, in the zone of synchro spellcasters.
This guy's too white.
I mean, I think that's the joke I was gonna go for. Yeah, no. This guy's white and gold, and his skin is pale green. He needs some color besides just his background.
Is he just like a magical green goblin?
I mean, honestly, with the way his mask looks and his skin tone, I think this is just Endymion doing some questionable things.
Whiteface? Oh, sorry,
This is war crimes, Endymion.
He's just blowing up some guys. Don't ask us who he's blowing up. Don't ask me why the white guy is exploding things. But
Look, surely it's for good reasons.
yeah. But this is another guy who's like, honestly, for what his stat line is and effectiveness, way too rare. This guy was an Ultra in Stardust Overdrive. And is so power crept, sadly, that he has not been reprinted since he was a one-off in the 2019 OTS pack, just cuz.
That sounds about right.
Now, admittedly, though, I think I'd have to double-check if it's the Ultra or the Common print, but the wiki says that the Unlimited edition of him is 5 cents right now. Anyway, this is another light spellcaster synchro. He's level 6, so he's a little easier to make with some of your guys. Magic Dog plus Frequency Magician is a very easy combo to do and would get you that field spell recovery if you needed it. He is one tuner and one or more non-tuner spellcasters. And Explosive Magician just says you can remove 2 spell counters from your field anywhere, target a spell trap, destroy it. So it is a little more expensive compared to, say, like Breaker, but they're from anywhere, so it's a little easier to pull off, and it's just, pop one. Oh, and I forgot to say his stats. He's a level 6 synchro with 2,500 attack, 1,800 defense. So aggressively statted.
Or like this guy is the definition of is all right.
If you were trying to make the spellcaster synchro deck that Konami clearly wanted you to try and make work, you'd run him. He fits in there. And our next one,
that's kind of the start and stop of it. Like,
yeah,
there's nothing impressive.
And our next one is, again, there was a very brief attempt where Konami tried to make Miracle Synchro Fusion a thing. And thus we got Supreme Arcanite Magician. Supreme Wizard Arcanite Magician in the OCG.
I've looked at this for 2 seconds. This is too much.
Okay, yeah. So we talked about how like Assault Mode was like it was extra, but it was good. We've crossed the too much line. First of all of his Konami orbs, which are spell counters, but all of his Konami orbs are now made of radium. Do not do that; you will die.
His shoulder pads and tri-horned helmet have grown longer
and more curved. So now he cannot raise his arms above his head because his shoulders will bonk into each other. And honestly, it's a shame because like the color scheme, the switch from all purple from orange trim, good.
I even like the pose. I do like the pose. Like the pose feels not intimidating, but it has a level of like, ooh, he's like something's happening. Like he's doing something.
So, Supreme Arcanite Magician is a level 10 light spellcaster fusion, 1,400 attack, 2,800 defense. Materials are 1 spellcaster type synchro monster and 1 spellcaster type monster. Once again, thus requiring you to run the type, but obviously, Miracle Synchro Fusion does exist, so it could have been a way to summon him. This card can only be special summoned by fusion summoning from the extra deck. Don't know why. I guess he hasn't been PCST'd, so it's a little weird. When this card is fusion summoned, put 2 spell counters on it. It gains 1,000 for each. So this guy is actually 34 because he's already 14 and he gains 1,000 for each spell counter. Once per turn, you can remove one spell counter from your side of the field to activate one of the following effects. Select. Let me double check the hard there. Oh, I think that may be a non-targeting destroy then. That or just he hasn't been PCST'd. But it's select a card and destroy it or draw 1 card. So, like, honestly, this guy's pretty good. He's a little hard to summon because you need the mats, and he can only be fusion summoned. But Fusion summon a 3,400 guy who can remove spell counters once per turn anywhere on your field to either draw or pop one. That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, it's it's kind of it suffers from the nature of this. This is them just desperately trying to push Miracle Synchro Fusion.
Yes, we
But-
did a lot of the iconic like 6 and 7 synchros in this period, and even some of the 8s I think were much like with Assault Mode. They tried to make Miracle Synchro Fusions of a lot of guys, and it didn't really work.
It didn't really work, but this guy, I could still see you playing it without the Synchro Fusion aspect. Like, you would just have it as a slot in your extra deck, just in case you could summon it once in a blue moon.
I mean,
because
yeah,
this card drops out, and he big dicks all over the opponent. He just,
Yeah. He's a large lad, so long as he's not negated anyway. But he's a big boy, and he has a, like I said, a soft once per turn to either pop one, which again, because this guy has never been PCST'd, might technically be non-targeting. I'm not sure, because select is sometimes not targeting and sometimes it is. Or he's just a draw engine. Like, draw one card. Pretty decent. But now we got to talk about the problematic one. Also, I think, let me double check. I'm pretty sure.
Looking at the rulings, it is listed as it does target.
Okay, it is a target, so it's just pre-PCST.
Yeah.
Konami, once again, if you want to bring back archetypes, give spellcasters a semi-generic synchro archetype. Yeah, everybody get ready for jump scare. It's her. It's the FTK white woman. And actually, I just realized this is Magical Exemplar.
Yeah, this is Magical Exemplar, who's turned evil, I guess.
Yep.
She's accessing some dark magic. I noticed that I thought her chains may go to her waist. No, they're free floating. She's just a kinky woman, I guess.
Sorry, I thought that wasn't a scythe. I thought she was swinging her staff at the bats. Like, go away.
No, it's a scythe.
Or she's in fact broken the chains, and that's
Possible,
why
yes.
she's evil. Who knows?
My chains are broken.
This is called Tempest Magician. In the OCG, she was Magical Tempester. I'm glad they fixed it, even though obviously I think Tempester, goes better with what she was in the OCG Conductor, but still. But yeah, this is the FTK White Woman. She's a Dark Spellcaster Synchro, level 6, 2200 attack, 1400 defense. She requires a tuner and one or more non-tuner spellcasters. When this card is Synchro Summon, put a spell counter on it. Once per turn, discard any number of cards. Place one spell counter on a monster you control for each you discarded. Remove all spell counters on the field. Inflict 500 to your opponent for each.
So guys, random question. There isn't like a spell counter card that can easily be facilitated into drawing your entire deck, is there? Like,
Actually,
a library of sorts that
Actually,
just
that's
by
my bad.
playing
I
cards.
totally should have talked about that already. I thought I already grabbed a Real Magical Library.
We haven't. So you know what?
Let me
Great
grab it.
time to
Let me
bring
get
him
it.
up
Let me
right
get it.
now. In fact,
Because by the way,
Up
Tempest
above.
is
Wait,
Tempest is banned in both formats, in all formats.
and it's never coming back.
No, it is a card that does nothing but enable FTKs because it's a burn card. So here's the Real Magical Library. The art's very iconic, but also kind of nothing to talk about.
Yeah,
I like it, but it's just a thing.
Yeah, again, cards. Do you know what? This is the Tower of Babel. This is what's inside it.
Maybe it is.
Maybe.
So
that's
Magical
what I'm
Library
going
is a
with.
light spellcaster with 0 attack, 2000 defense. It's a level 4. Each time a spell card is activated, put a spell counter on this card. Maximum of 3. Remove 3 spell counters. Draw 1 card. Notice, chat, there's no once per turn on that second effect.
And there never has been. Again, so basically, you're playing World Magical Library, you get Tempest Magician out, you draw your entire deck, and then you win.
Yeah.
That's
you just
it.
keep drawing cards, activating spell cards, get more spell counters, draw more cards, until you have enough that you can kill the opponent. And it's 500, so, it's not that many counters.
And even then, realistically, it's either Royal Magical Library or you just do Citadel. I don't think Magical Library was an integral part of the combo, but you played it because it drawed cards.
Yeah.
So, you know?
No, it was part of the setup.
Yeah. Oh, it was? Okay.
Well, it could be. I think it's one of the cards you can run, just because it's easy to get out. You're already synchro
Yeah,
summoning.
like the Tempest FTK had many.
Yeah,
I'm sure it had
so remember how we talked
variations.
about how 10 counters seems reasonable to pop the entire board? I just double checked to be sure. You only need 16 spell counters to FTK by activating Tempest Magician.
And realistically, if you think about it, so 16,
And
16
technically,
cards.
Yeah. 16 spell card activations, and technically only 15 because she puts one on herself when she's synchro summoned.
Yeah. So 15 activations, which for Magical Library and Citadel on the board at the same time, that is 12, or realistically less, because you're gonna take spell counters off for Magical Library to draw.
Yeah.
Which, you know, again, very quickly spell counters will get out of control for Tempest Magician to just bonk the opponent to death in one shot. You know, like you don't even need her effect sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's just, and like I said, it's a card that's never ever coming back. You know,
Mainly
she cannot
because
come back in.
there's like you could errata it to not FCK the opponent, but it's already at once per turn. There's no reason to remove errata removing all unless you do it like remove up to 5 or some arbitrary amount that makes no sense.
Yeah.
So just keep this card dead. It doesn't have to exist.
And unlike say like Dark Strike Fighter, I don't think she was ever in the anime, so there's no like compelling need to errata her to exist.
I don't think so. Like it doesn't.
Yeah,
at least on the card,
honestly, I think that's why a lot of these synchro spellcasters haven't gone anywhere ever. They weren't actually in 5Ds.
Yeah, no appearances listed.
So like Konami just feels free to forget them. But like I said, there were a couple spell cards as well. That'll be our end for the night. My throat's getting a little scratchy. So
one thing.
Go ahead.
Apparently, this is Magical Exemplar wielding the Scythe of Knights and Sorcerer, which is a way to synchro summon this card. It's a 2 and a 4.
Neat.
That is a cute
So
detail.
if you want to just throw Knights
pull up Knight
and
and real quick,
Sorcerer up on the it's not a spell counter card, but just to wrap things up with one extra little guy.
Well, we do have some spell cards to talk about, but
do.
Knight and Sorcerer is
Right.
very iconic, and it is part of. It is a spellcaster tuner who is very much in this ethos.
Yeah, in this ethos of we're trying to give spellcasters something to do. With
Yeah, printed
synchro
in
shenanigans.
early in the Synchro era in 08, Knight and Sorcerer is a level 2 spellcaster tuner. When he's special summoned, you can banish up to two cards in your opponent's graveyard. Pretty
It's funny.
standard part of
Like
this pull.
But yeah, so it's Magical Exemplar tuning with Knights and Sorcerer and getting that cool ass scythe, which I guess also controls the bats.
And I think that explains why there is a synchro version of Knights and Sorcerer who came out like 10 years later in Dama, in Dawn of Majesty, Knight and Administrator, who still requires, by the way, Knight and Sorcerer and one non-tuner.
Very funny.
Yeah, we will not be talking about that guy, I think, right now. Maybe I'll throw that into when we do the part 2, when we talk about modern support. But real quickly, we got a couple of spell cards, including a few that are not directly spell counter related, but will explain some of what may be going on with Magical Exemplar and into Tempest. Oops, that's my tab. Hold on. You know, there's a few weird things. But first, we do actually have a card that is spell counter related that came out during this period. Was in Crimson Crisis. It's just called Arcane Barrier. Card art's very simple. It's a statue of a wizard making a barrier. Cool.
This is it's like you put 4 counters on it and you can like summon the spellcaster or something.
Yeah, each time a face-up spell counter on the field is spellcaster monster is destroyed, put a counter on it, max 4, send this card, and one face-up monster you control to the graveyard, draw 1 card for each spell counter.
Okay.
Obviously, I don't. The main problem is there's not an easy way to destroy your own spellcasters to get it, but we've already talked about how spell counters are a very valuable deep draw engine. This is just more draw.
Like this this is in essence to the like your a guaranteed mid-range grind card that every deck build pack got.
Yeah.
Like it's not meant to be crazy. It's not meant to be insane. It's meant to be played in casual, long-form games.
Which is a format that existed in the Synchro era. It does not exist anymore. And we should be glad because, like, there is a universe where Arcane Barrier is, Shien's dojo, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a realm where spell counters are 6 SAMs, and we don't want that world.
No. Oh God, no.
So now we're going to do a couple story cards that are not necessarily directly related to spell counters, but are very obviously working with this stuff. First, we have Quick Booster. In the OCG, it is still called Quick Booster, but its full Romaji name is Quick Strike Magic Power Amplifier.
That card, that little doohickey is like an ancient trap card. I forget what it's fucking called.
Let me check the trivia page if it's CS.
That is definitely like a 2002
Type 0 Magic
card.
Crusher. That is the name of the card. You are correct. It is an old-ass continuous trap. I'll pull it up. Here it is, the Type 0 Magic Crusher.
Yeah, like, it's...
Discard a spell card to inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent.
It is hot garbage. Hot ass.
God.
It's unplayable. But this was the kind of pack filler that I remember opening very fondly when I was a child.
So this is just a very weird card. Like I said, it's gonna be plot stuff because it's got Alchemist on it, and he's clearly like assembling a Power Stone. But it doesn't actually have anything to do with spell counters. It just says target a quick play spell in your graveyard, except Quick Booster, shuffle it into your deck. If this card is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, add a quick play spell from your hand, except Quick Booster, from your deck to your hand. So it's just a funny little quick play support.
That's cute.
Yeah. But it is a slight setup for a couple of cards we're going to see. I won't do this in alphabetical order. We'll do it in the order that makes sense. I also love the name of these cards. You probably have heard of them before. This is when, because we're fully separated from Upper Deck now, so this is just the TCG department having a fun time with these names. The first is That Wacky Magic! Exclamation point.
Oh!
Which was just called Rampaging Magic Power. Anyway, so Magical Exemplar is not having a good time. She's summoned too many spell counters.
She's currently inflicting 3,000 points of damage to the opponent.
Yeah. And
The cat and dog are freaking out.
they're not having a good time. Also, hey, Tempest Magician is a 6-star monster. There are 6 spell counters, you know.
This also confirms to me that Magic Hat can stand on its hind legs, and I dislike that.
I mean, cats can kind of do that, just not for very long.
Well, I know, but it is the proper standing up pose and not an animal standing up thing. Like,
so this is a normal spell that says banish all spell cards from your graveyard, destroy all monsters your opponent controls with defense less than or equal to the number of spell cards you banish times 300. Not really great, but very funny. But obviously showing us that some shit is going a little wrong.
Well, and like this is something that like it never really comes up in discussion because we're always talking about deck build packs.
Yeah.
Sometimes cards have to be bad, guys. Like
Yeah.
sometimes cards can just be bad, but they're cute. Like they have cute little like fun effects.
It's really weird to me that like Konami does not do any official like limited content really, because Yu-Gi-Oh is actually a card game that loves limited formats. I think we've seen this so much with like people choosing to play Prague, Cube, Chaos Draft, Masochist, etc. Like Yu-Gi-Oh is a card game that when you are not just buying the most optimal card list off a net deck list and playing, is also really fun because there's a lot of just weird shit in it. Under normal circumstances, are you going to play that wacky magic? But if you're playing an Oops All Spell card deck and you don't have access to something like a Megaton Magical Cannon, you may actually go, well, if I get deep enough into the combo, I could banish, like 20 spells from my deck and blow up anything.
Yeah. A great example is just looking at all these random spell counter cards. This would never have been competitive, but you can very easily build a goofy spell counter deck. Like three people could build a spell counter deck, and they will come together with a completely different deck because they've just made so many random little spell counter support that you could build 3 entirely different spellcaster decks that just involve spell counters. And that's great.
In fact,
that's
I
fun.
should see, probably with some other like counter-based archetypes, but I could build a cube out of this.
Yeah, you could totally do a spell counter cube. I would love to
do a
play
spell
that.
counter cube. Maybe also throw aliens in there as another deck that has been historically awful but funny.
Yeah, again, aliens never been competitive, but boy does their archetype interact in a super unique way that just there's like nothing was like it until like the Gradles,
Yeah.
which really just feel like aliens done right because they're still aliens if you think about it.
And our follow-up, by the way, on That Wacky Magic is That Wacky Alchemy, which is just Alchemist shows up and blows up the counters. Get the fuck out. You're going to the forbidden list.
So I think that Wacky Magic is then him rebuilding the spell counter he's just broken then.
Yeah, the quick booster is him just rebuilding it.
Quick booster.
That Wacky Alchemy is a trap card that says if a face-up spell card in your opponent's spell trap zone is sent to the graveyard, target a monster on the field, destroy it. So, like, obviously, I think the idea is that by him blowing up the spell counter, he is also stopping whatever's going on with now Tempest Magician. But it's just, like I said, it's just a funny lore card.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because we're almost at 3 hours and we haven't touched any of the pendulum shit, which is going to be long because each of them is going to have 2 effects I need to read.
Yeah. And not to mention, it's a competitive archetype.
Yeah, like there's actual combo to talk about here, and there's a lot of stuff. So we're going to do that as a second parter. I know, it's sad. You won't get to another cube yet next week. But we'll come back for this. Because there's a lot of other weird spell counter stuff that is talked about. There's, lots of Endymion-focused stuff. This deck not only is a Pendulum deck, but is also a Link era deck. Celine, Queen of the Master Magicians, their Link 3 is, like, super well known for reasons. Oh, actually, this is a very good time for me to go. I also hear it thundering outside, too, so... uncapping Pendulum Endymion is even the gods are threatening me. I do need to poll not just these 2 guys, but the rest of them for more Fail Portrayal poll selections to pick a new archetype to vote on. Because we scratched off both Impachi and Agents last time, so we still got some stuff we can think about. But I'll ask all that off mic. I will say I have been in the tank designing some more cubes. I actually did design my normal monster cube. I wanted to do more with it to make it like monsters that are just have conditions, but honestly, there's a lot of normal monsters that are part of storylines and also non-effect monsters that I think it worked out really good. And then I designed, on a mad lark the other night, I designed another cube, which at first I called it Oops All Spell Traps, but that's not really real. I decided to call it the Colorblind Cube, because the idea is, spells, traps, monsters, what's the difference? That'll be a cube that Axe will like because it's very high power. It's got artifacts, paleos, all those fucking trap monsters are in it. There's a small Centurion package.
So it's just monsters. It's monsters you can set and spell and trap. Traps that are monsters.
Traps become monsters.
Spells that I assume come in tokens.
Yeah, and token generation cards. Yeah, so.
Okay.
And it's got a few extra deck monsters in there that play along with that, like cards like Bellcat Fighter, which requires a token. There's a small adventurer package in there, which also
Durandal.
Yes, you can play Durandal. I actually managed to put enough cards, I think there's enough 7s in there so that I got away with putting in fucking Dracosac. Like, it's a lot higher power than the cubes we normally play, but I think it'll be funnier because it'll be... Well, first of all, it's going to have both artifacts and paleos in it, so it's like, shit, dude, do I blow up your back row or not?
Yeah,
put, double Cyclone in there. A couple of funny cards.
Like definitely high power, but I mean, even with our regular cubes, there were still some handed games.
Yeah.
Like in that fire water cube that didn't go that long.
Yeah, and also I will say that I don't know if that's what we want to queue up next in this, but fire water has been revised again to make fire much better and cut some of the faff. So like, it should hopefully be balanced out more. I've done some tests of it.
I definitely want to try it, but it probably shouldn't be the next one. Just
we
like
could probably do, in that case, we could probably do my
Let's go.
dragon, not dragon, because I bet that will be good for one funny episode and then can go away. It can go to the archives.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, so we got some plans. We'll be back for the pendulum half of Endymion. That means I can put pendulum Endymion on the thumbnail and make fun of people who can't read. I wonder if I can do if there's not already an edit of that dog saying "You're a grown ass man, read the damn card."
Yeah, I was thinking that.
If there's not already an Endymion edit of that, I will make that edit and work him into the thumbnail somewhere. Because I'll be honest, I understand that pendulum Endymion is wordy, but also like, just read, man. You'll be all right. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
I mean, in any case, like, instead of complaining about a card being too long to read it. You can rightly complain about a card having cumbersome text, but you still have to understand what the card does.
And the like I said, it's Mighty Master is that version. Like, honestly, Mighty Master is not that complicated. Like, he's pretty straightforward. Like I said, and other people are like, again, it's because MBT made a meme about it in Junior Journey, but Nirvana High Paladin is also not that complicated. Like I said, half his text is just funny conditions he can do. But anyway, we're gonna get out of here. Like I said, it's thundering outside, thunderbolts and lightning.
Very, very frightening.
You know. But we'll talk about some that Failed Portrayal poll stuff to get up for the new month soon. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We talked about the ban list. We talked about Endymion. We'll be back for more. That means I gotta save this text file I have, but that's okay. Just so I don't have to fucking type out this whole ass list next time. What was that about cat dog?
Is there going to be more cards featuring them in part 2?
I don't think so. But maybe some of the mythical beast cards may actually think about them. I don't know yet. I have to review all of them. I didn't look too closely. All right, I have saved my text document. So, like I said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you guys next. Tim. Good night, everybody.
Woo!